Chapter 31:17. Sir, this way, this way. Chun Zhao was sitting in the open, enjoying the sea breeze. Not far away, a few sneaky figures waved at Chun Zhao. Looking at them, Chun Zhao couldn't help but frown. Weren't they the contestants he'd been responsible for? Chun Zhao crooked his finger. Come and sit. They looked around and sat down in front of Chun Zhao like thieves. What are you doing? You're acting like thieves. Sir, don't you know that contestants will be punished for touching the judges? How come I don't know? Because we're the ones being punished. Of course, the judges wouldn't be punished. Chun Zhao had always been a volunteer. No matter what, Zhang Tianyi wouldn't cause trouble for Chun Zhao. If you know you'll be punished, why did you come to me? Everyone looked at each other. One of the women chuckled awkwardly. Sir, I cast an anti-surveillance spell. As long as we're not being watched directly by people of your level, normal spiritualists won't be able to sense us approaching you. Are you sure I won't report you? Will you? Being lazy won't do you any good. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Sir, this is a gift we pooled together. The woman pushed a gift box to Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao opened it. It was a branded watch worth more than $300,000. Coincidentally, Chun Zhao had the same watch. However, Chun Zhao found it funny. Even he'd be bribed one day. It felt weird. I don't need the gift. Tell me, why did you come to me? Everyone stopped talking again. Clearly, Chun Zhao's refusal to accept the gift made them nervous. Tell me, if I want to mess with you, it doesn't matter if you give me a gift or not. If you want to get something from me, it won't just be a branded watch. Everyone was helpless. Chun Zhao's words had clearly struck their fear. Actually, we just want to know what the next match will be. Points, Chun Zhao said without hesitation. Which island will it be held on? It seemed that some of them were experienced. It wasn't their first time participating. Island 67. Taiji World. Everyone's expression changed. Looks like I don't need to say more. You guys know him better than I do. Everyone had a bitter look on their faces. Why? Is that eunuch world very dangerous? There are huge casualties every time. One of them said, I participated in one session 12 years ago. It was also the Taiying world. Because of an accident, more than 100 participants and a judge died. I was also seriously injured in that session and had to recuperate for nearly 10 years. I didn't come back until the year before last. Because of the 10 years of recuperation, I missed 2 sessions. Did we encounter a deity-level magical beast? Yes and no. The man did not beat around the bush and continued. The main cause of the casualties is the demonic beasts. Under normal circumstances, it is unlikely that the demonic beasts will go on a rampage. However, in the competition 12 years ago, almost all the demonic beasts in the Taiyin world went crazy and attacked the contestants. After the investigation, it was found that the demonic beasts seemed to have been deliberately disturbed, which was why they went on a rampage. Do you know who they are? I don't know. The organizers haven't been able to find the instigator of that incident. If that's the case, why is it open again this time? I think the Egler family in the Baiku Islands can't sit still anymore. Oh, why is that? However, the strength of the family is now extremely weak. Originally, the Taiyamo world was the source of income for the Egel family. But since the incident 12 years ago, the Taiyamo world has been closed. Relying on the Taiyamo world produced by the Taiyamo world, the Egel family was able to maintain its reputation as a first-class family. However, the Taiyamo world has been closed for 12 years. If it continues to be closed, the Egel family is afraid that the Egel family won't be able to hold on any longer. In addition, according to the annual investigations of the Big Six in the Taiyamo world, the number of magical beasts in the Taiyamo world has increased beyond the normal level. At that time, the magical beasts in the Taiyamo world will swarm out, causing a great impact on Island 67 and the surrounding islands. At that time, not to mention the interests of the Taiyamo world, even the Baiku Islands may lose the favor of the Big Six and change to another place to hold the world's supernatural competition. You should know that many places hope that the world's supernatural competition can be held in another place. Hearing this, Zhou Wen's expression became solemn as he spoke. Almost every year, there are rumors that the venue of the World Supernatural Tournament will be changed. Could it be the doing of those people from a venue? That's a possibility, but there's no evidence, and there are many places competing for the hosting rights, so it's almost impossible to find the instigator of that incident just by guessing. Sir, if there's any danger, please help us. Do you think the second round will be dangerous? Chun Zhao was surprised. We don't know either, but Tai Yuan world is too dangerous. Even if there are no accidents, the magical beasts there are still extremely dangerous. Furthermore, no one knows if the same thing will happen again. After all, the culprit has not been found yet. Even if something really happens, I won't necessarily help you. If something happens, I'll help you out in passing. But if you think that you'll be the first to look for you after something happens, then you're thinking too much. I also have subordinates participating in the competition. If something really happens, I'll protect them first, not you. This answer was within their expectations. After all, Chun Zhao was among the top. There was no way he would be bought over so easily. Plus, there's no sign of it yet. We don't even know if something will happen, so you don't have to worry too much, Chun Zhao said calmly. Also, even if something happens, all you have to do is run. Unless you encounter a god-level magical beast, it shouldn't be a problem for you to escape from the ether world. I'm just afraid of accidents. What accidents? That's just your guesses. Or do you have actual information? We don't have any information, but we can still use simple prophecy spells. Oh, prophecy spells? What did you predict? Chaos? No, not accidents. We didn't predict anything. Are you kidding me? You didn't predict anything, and you said that something will happen? Aren't you being too careless? Chapter 31:18. Sir, not being able to predict anything is the scariest prediction, one of them said with a bitter smile. Another person added, Sir, I'm the one who made the prophecy. The prophecy magic didn't predict what would happen at a certain point in time. Maybe someone interfered with it, or maybe some powerful being blocked it. But the most likely thing is that the prophet died. Chun Zhao frowned. Even if you die, it doesn't mean something will happen in the second round. After all, the competition itself is very risky. I also prophesied them, but there was no result. Only that person pointed to another person and said, I saw the scene of him being heavily injured and dying. If one or two people had an accident, I could accept it, but if all of us had an accident, then we feel that there will definitely be problems in the second round. I can't do anything about this. I will report it to the other referees. As for what they decide, it's not for me to decide. Chun Zhao glanced at everyone. As for you guys, I don't have any better advice apart from telling you to run if something happens. The arena for the second match was too big. Even if Chun Zhao spread out his senses, he couldn't cover the entire ethereal world. That was an area of tens of thousands of square kilometers, which was about the size of 60 Los Angeles. Even the combined senses of the other 7 judges wouldn't be able to cover the entire area, let alone Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao would definitely be in charge of a very large area. By then, Chun Zhao wouldn't be able to stare at them. So, Chun Zhao could only pray that they were on their own. However, Chun Zhao realized that he had underestimated the intelligence of the other judges. Since Chun Zhao could get the information, there was no reason why the others couldn't get the information. That afternoon, Zhang Tianyi called for another referee meeting. The situation seems to be a bit complicated this time. I received some bad news. There might be problems in the second match, Zhang Tianyi said with a serious expression. In fact, it was not his decision to choose Taiying World as the venue for the second round. Instead, it was a request from the Agel family. They were the representatives of the 6 great supernatural organizations. Zhang Tianyi was against it at first, but he couldn't stop the Egler family from crying out of poverty. Moreover, he was willing to give up a portion of the profits. He wasn't the only one who had the final say in the Great 6. In the end, he could only compromise and agree to reopen the Taigui world. However, he was worried that something would happen again. The instigator of the previous incident had never been found. He didn't even know what the other party's goal was. In the end, they could only come to one conclusion, and that was that they had a personal grudge against the Egler family. It was purely to disgust and deal a blow to the Agoli family. Now that he had opened the Tai Gui world again, Zhang Tianyi could not guarantee that the tragedy from 12 years ago would not happen again. One of my disciples divined the fortune of a participant he was familiar with. In the end, he didn't get any results. Instead, he spat out a mouthful of blood and shouted, "1,000 demons have appeared." Everyone furrowed their brows, but they did not panic too much. The prophecy of the emergence of 1,000 demons sounded quite scary. However, no one on the scene had prevented a few catastrophic events. Even if it was a major incident, he had experienced it once or twice. Therefore, he didn't have much of a reaction. Instead, he was thinking about whether there were any devils that had been sealed and whether they could be related to the name 1,000 Devils. However, after thinking for a long time, he could not think of 1,000 demons. Of course, it didn't mean that they didn't take it seriously. In fact, if they could think of it, it would actually be easier. After all, whether it was an ancient devil or not, they could at least find a few words in some ancient records. However, there were no relevant records at all. This was very troublesome. Without any information to use, they could not find the other party's weakness in advance. In this situation, they could only rely on absolute combat power to keep the other party in check. After thinking for a long time, they still could not think of a better way. Chun Zhao was naturally a necessary combat power. At the moment, they could not confirm the impact of the incident. However, with Chun Zhao as a guarantee, at least everyone was more confident. Nevertheless, without knowing the specifics, no one felt that it would be fine. Chun Zhao kept silent. He really did not have much confidence in the information he had obtained so far. The other party could commit such a huge crime 12 years ago and escape unscathed. Today, 12 years later, the incident still hadn't happened. How could the other party let you find any clues? Who could guarantee that the information they had now wasn't deliberately leaked by the other party? Most of the current information was obtained through prophecy or divination. But for some powerful people, it was still possible to change the outcome of a prophecy. For example, creating some illusions or even some mental interference on the prophet was extremely easy for them. Actually, everyone understood the logic, but they were more willing to follow the information. After all, the information on the surface would at least give them something to investigate. But if the information couldn't be used, then everyone would be a loss. Zhang Tianyi, Baifla, and 23rd Blood Mary were all 100 times more cunning than Chun Zhao. If Chun Zhao could think of a problem, how could they not think of it? To them, they were either not in power and didn't care about politics like Chun Zhao, or they were people with other plans like Zhang Tianyi. The 8 of them briefly explained the situation in the meeting. They did not have a clear plan on how to act at the moment. After the meeting, Zhang Tianyi pulled Chun Zhao to the side. Chun Zhao really did not want to interact with Zhang Tianyi in private. He might be tricked into doing manual labor again. Chun Zhao, if something really happens to the Taiyan world, how about you be the main force? I'm a member of the judges. Of course, I'll contribute. Chun Zhao's meaning was simple. He would do as much as he needed to. He would do as much as the others did. Not one bit more, not one bit less. As for the main force, he would not take it. You should think about the big picture. I have everything, but I lack the big picture. Zhang Tianyi smiled bitterly. Chun Zhao was indeed easy to fool. But the key was that after being fooled a few times, Chun Zhao had learned his lesson. The way Chun Zhao learned his lesson wasn't to see the big picture. Instead, no matter what, he would first refuse. This was more troublesome than dealing with smart people because they would not be able to continue their conversation. If it was someone else, Zhang Tianyi would first convince them with virtue. But he could not use this on Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao was also good at convincing people with virtue. Tell me, what do you want? Chapter 31:19. Chun Zhao shook his head. I always hoped that someone tall would hold the sky if it collapsed. But one day, I suddenly realized that I've become that tall person. So, I hope that even if I'm tall, I'll be the most inconspicuous one. Those who stand out all die miserably. You're thinking too much. Unless I hit you with a nuclear bomb, I don't think anyone can kill you. Also, I don't think even a small nuclear bomb can kill you. Have you studied how to deal with me? This is normal research. It's not targeted at anyone. I don't believe you. Chun Zhao chuckled. Chun Zhao turned and left. However, he was confused by the current situation. From start to finish, Chun Zhao wasn't someone who could analyze the situation. The more he analyzed, the more confused he became. But he remembered that he didn't have to analyze alone. Chun Zhao took out his phone and called West. West, I need you to analyze something for me. President, go ahead. Chun Zhao told him the current situation. West, help me analyze the current situation. What does Celestial Master Zhang mean? West was also confused. After thinking for a while, he said, President, why don't we find a professional to analyze it? Professional? Who? Did you forget about the people who joined us a while ago? Alunari, Manit, they all use their own intellect to win our favor. Them? Then let's find them and see if they can come to a different conclusion. A while later, Aluntarai and Manette arrived. Right now, they were doing very well in their respective teams. They'd also gained a foothold in their teams. At the same time, they also learned about the supernatural organization's background. In the video call, the two were still rather reserved when they talked to Chun Zhao. President, yes, I need your help to analyze something. Chun Zhao simply explained the current situation. President, if it's convenient, please explain in detail, Aluntarai said. The more detailed, the better. That way, we won't make a wrong judgment. Chun Zhao could only repeat it again. This time, he told them all the details he remembered. That's the situation. Aluntarai and Manette both fell into deep thought. Chun Zhao didn't rush them. He waited patiently for them to continue. After a few minutes, Alantir said, President, you have two questions at the moment. Whether the prophecy is accurate or not, and Master Celestial Master Zhang's attitude. You suspect that Master Celestial Master Zhang has something to do with what happened 12 years ago. And what kind of role will Master Celestial Master Zhang play in the second match that is about to begin? Chun Zhao nodded. What Aluntarai said was exactly what Chun Zhao was hesitating about. This time, it was Manet's turn to speak. Guild leader, you don't have to worry about whether the prophecy is accurate or not. All signs point to the fact that when the second match begins, an accident will definitely occur. This is almost inevitable. What you need to determine now is not whether an accident will occur or not, but whether this accident is the ultimate goal of the mastermind behind the scenes, or whether it is just to attract attention. After the accident occurs, what will the guild leader do? Quell the accident, eliminate the person who caused the accident, or stand by and watch? Of course, Chun Zhao stopped talking. He'd taken it for granted, but now he realized that what he was truly confused about was his position. Actually, guild leader, you don't have to think so complicated. When you encounter a problem, you solve it. It's just that simple. It has nothing to do with Master Celestial Master Zhang or the organizers. It's just the guild leader's position. As long as you stick to your principles and responsibilities, you'll be able to answer to yourself and the organizers. No one can blame the guild leader for his failure. Chun Zhao was enlightened. He instantly understood. Secondly, Master Celestial Master Zhang. It's not that you don't understand his position, but that you're conflicted. If Master Celestial Master Zhang is the one who caused all this, what will you do? Chun Zhao nodded. Emotionally, he didn't want Zhang Tianyi to be the culprit. However, Zhang Tianyi's attitude made Chun Zhao worried. Zhang Tianyi had the power and ability to do so. I don't think Master Celestial Master Zhang is the mastermind, Manit said. Master Celestial Master Zhang might know some things, or even most of the inside information, but it's too hasty to judge him as the mastermind just like that. Master Celestial Master Zhang might have guessed that something bad would happen. President, you might be Master Celestial Master Zhang's backup. Master Celestial Master Zhang's position should be neutral. He doesn't want the matter to be completely exposed, but he also doesn't want the real mastermind to succeed. So, he chose to use his own method to hide the truth. Chun Zhao nodded. Oh, do you two have any missions now? Not yet. You two come to the Baku Islands immediately and be my temporary strategists. I'm having a headache right now. I thought it was just normal labor, but I have to waste my brain cells. So troublesome. I'll send a plane to pick you up. The two were overjoyed. After all, they could receive Chun Zhao's favor and be put in an important position. This was a precious opportunity for them. The core members of the supernatural organization were all old members. Those who joined later could hardly be called core members anymore. There was only one way to become a new core member: get Chun Zhao's approval. But most official members couldn't even come into contact with Chun Zhao, let alone get his approval. Now was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They were official members, but their potential was very average. They clearly recognized their strengths and weaknesses. They were intelligent and couldn't catch up to the captain-level members in terms of strength. It would even be difficult for the others in the team to catch up, but they weren't irreplaceable. So, they also felt a sense of urgency. They didn't want to be eliminated. If they wanted to become an unshakable member, they had to increase their value. Chun Zhao's approval was undoubtedly their only shortcut. Chun Zhao had Famutas fly the plane back to pick up Alunari and man it. Chun Zhao didn't want to be led by the nose by Zhang Tianyi. So, when Zhang Tianyi privately came to find him today, he didn't give any reply. Who knew if any of his replies were within Zhang Tianyi's plan? The next day, Alunari and Manit arrived at the Baku Islands. Chun Zhao received them at the airport. "I'll take you to the hotel first." Chapter 31:20. President. Both of them were in awe of Chun Zhao. The more they knew, the more they feared Chun Zhao. He was a true god-slayer, and not just one. Even the famous god of war, Ares, was working for Chun Zhao now. Chun Zhao wasn't famous, but this didn't stop them from being in awe of him. "President, is there any news today?" "The rules for the second round haven't been announced yet," Chun Zhao said. "Most of the contestants are preparing. Let's go eat something first. We'll talk while we eat." Chun Zhao found a nice restaurant, and the three of them sat down. Because they were facing Chun Zhao, Alunari and Manit were both a bit reserved. They didn't dare to eat freely in front of good food. "Eat. No need to be so reserved. I don't eat people." Only then did the two relax a bit. But they kept looking at Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao didn't start eating. Instead, he said, "I met a few contestants in the first round. They helped me find some information. The owner of the 100 Vault Islands is the Egler family," Alunari said, putting down her knife and fork. "The incident 12 years ago caused Island 67 and Space Nightfall to be sealed. The Egler family suffered heavy losses, but it's not to the point where they can't maintain it. After all, there are many islands with good resources and profits. It's more than enough to maintain the Egler family. That's why they're trying so hard to persuade the Six to restart Island 67 and Space Nightfall. That's why it's strange," Chun Zhao said. "If we exclude the profit factor, there must be something in Space Nightfall that the Egler family can't get, but can't give up. So the Egler family is also a suspect in the incident 12 years ago." "President, I made a hypothesis," Manit said. "Oh, what hypothesis?" Chun Zhao and Alunari both looked at Manit. Assuming that the mastermind behind that incident is the Egel family, everything seems to make sense. Chun Zhao was still a bit confused, but Alunari understood immediately. The Egel family is the master of this place. It's easier for them to carry out any plan than anyone else, and it's easier for them to cover it up. That's why it's understandable that they haven't found any clues in 12 years. Or rather, someone found something, but because the target is the Egel family, they covered it up. Alunari said, "Also, Celestial Master Zhang's attitude is understandable. He wants the chairman to clean up the mess of the Egler family." Chun Zhao frowned. "Old John, that's too much. Guild leader, this is only my guess. There are still many doubts that I haven't solved," Shi Feng said, shaking his head. "Your speculation is very reasonable. I think it's the truth." Chun Zhao stood up. "I'll go find that old bastard now." "President, don't go yet." Alunari and Manit hurriedly pulled him back. "Guild leader, these are only our guesses right now. It's not easy to come to a conclusion. Moreover, we don't have any evidence to prove our guesses," Shi Feng said, shaking his head. Chun Zhao was finally persuaded. He felt like he'd really had the urge to go all out with Zhang Tianyi when he was being used. If the Egel family was the culprit, they could have done it at any other time. They wouldn't have needed to do it during the World Supernatural Tournament. Besides, they would have caused so many casualties. From the perspective of profit and the family's development, it's a very unwise move. You have to know that even a person as prestigious as Celestial Master Zhang wouldn't be able to bear the consequences of such casualties, let alone the Eagle family, which is in a weakened state. Secondly, if Celestial Master Zhang knows the truth, he has no reason to hide it for the Eagle family. He doesn't need to worry so much. The Eagle family doesn't have the right to have Celestial Master Zhang cover up the truth. I'm getting more and more confused. Earlier, you said that Zhang Tianyi has a reason to cover up for the Eagle family. Now, you're saying that the Eagle family doesn't have the right to have Zhang Tianyi cover up for them. President, you said ability first and motive second. For example, if you discover that someone in the association is doing something harmful to the association, you have the ability to cover up for that person, but you don't have the motive. In other words, if Zhang Tianyi has the ability to cover up for the Eagle family, he also has the ability to cover up for others. Is the mastermind one of the big six? Chen Zhao muttered to himself. The entire meal was filled with Alanteri and Manet speculations. But they couldn't come to a conclusion. They had too little information at the moment. Even if Alanteri and Manet were ridiculously smart, they couldn't be omniscient. Chen Zhao stood up to pay the bill. Alanteri and Manet both had the urge to fight for the bill. But after seeing the bill, they both remained silent. Sir, you've already paid the bill. Already paid? How come I don't remember? The cashier pointed at a middle-aged man sitting nearby. That man paid for you. Chen Zhao looked in the direction the cashier was pointing at. The middle-aged man nodded slightly. Chen Zhao walked over. Sir, do we know each other? Please forgive my rudeness. I'm Moraiser Eagle. Eagle. Chen Zhao couldn't help but study Moraiser Eagle seriously. You must be the new referee of this year's World Supernatural Competition, Mr. Chen. Hi, I am. Can we talk? You should be interested in the world of Ether in the second round, right? If you're here to explain something to me, then there's no need. I'm not a cop. Mr. Chen, I don't want to explain anything to you. I just want to ask you something. What is it? To protect my family. I don't understand. Chen Zhao really didn't understand. To put it simply, we're hiring you. Hiring me? Can you afford it? Chen Zhao asked arrogantly. Mr. Chen, since you're one of the best, we'll naturally offer you a price worthy of the best. Morris Eagle's tone was neither servile nor overbearing. Although the Eagle family has declined, the Eagle family's wealth hasn't disappeared. Whether it's resources in the spiritual world or currency, as long as Mr. Chen agrees, we can afford it. You should know that I don't have time. After all, I'm the referee of the World Supernatural Competition. I can't give up my job to be your bodyguard. As long as it's during the second round, then I don't have time. You should know that the second round won't be so peaceful, and Zhang Tianyi won't give me a holiday. Chapter 31-21. Chen Zhao didn't really like or dislike the Egler family. So, although Chen Zhao rejected the Egler family's offer in person, he still gave Moraiser enough face. Mr. Chen, it's in the ether world, Moraiser said. Actually, you're protecting a contestant, my daughter Monica. Actually, the person I'm asking you to protect is a contestant, my daughter, Monica, said Moraiser Eigler. Do you think it's appropriate for me to follow your daughter when I'm enforcing the law? Actually, you want her to follow you. You can bring her wherever you go. What's the reward? $200 million or magic materials of the same value. As expected of an old family, spending $200 million easily. Even Chen Zhao wasn't that generous. Up until now, Chen Zhao's two biggest expenses were the private jet and the yacht. These two expenses were actually investments and necessary expenses. But in order to hire a temporary bodyguard for his daughter, Moraiser Egler actually spent $200 million. Let me think about it. Okay, I hope you'll have good news. Here's my name card. Moraiser didn't continue. He politely handed over his name card and left first. Chen Zhao returned to a Lunnerai in Manet. He repeated the conversation he had with Meritor Egler. It might be a smokescreen, a Luncherai said. He purposely revealed that his daughter is in danger to lower his suspicion. But it's $200 million. Using $200 million to prove his innocence seems a bit expensive, Manet said. Even Chen Zhao felt a bit suffocated, let alone the others. $200 million. What kind of concept was that? $200 million was almost enough for someone to do whatever they wanted in American soil. But now, $200 million was only used to hire a temporary bodyguard. President, I don't think the Egler family is the mastermind. Why? You said it yourself. He might have purposely spent $200 million to clear his suspicion. President, if they want to clear their suspicions, they'll find someone more important to do so. Fundamentally speaking, this matter actually has nothing to do with you. If they're really the culprit behind the scenes, they'll use the $200 million on Celestial Master Zhang instead of you. It could also be to avoid suspicion. If they directly threw $200 million at Zhang Tianyi, it would almost be publicly announcing that they were the masterminds behind the scenes. If they threw $200 million at me, let's not talk about whether I would pursue the matter or not. This way, they could clear their suspicions and get on my good side. Isn't that good? Guild leader, this is where the problem lies. If they hadn't taken out $200 million, we wouldn't have so many speculations. Now that they've taken out $200 million, they've become even more suspicious of the Egel family. Hence, a smart person would do nothing at a time like this instead of throwing out $200 million. All right, I can't keep up with the thoughts of smart people like you. Chen Zhao scratched his head. Then, do you think I should accept this $200 million? No, this employment request? Putting aside all the conspiracies? President, I don't think you have any reason to reject a request of $200 million. Okay, then accept it. President, please don't be so reluctant when accepting $200 million. I'm sure you don't know me well. $200 million is only my income for 4 days. Aluntarai and Manit didn't feel good at all. You can reimburse me for your daily expenses in the Baiku Islands. With that, Chen Zhao led the way and left. In the next 2 days, Chen Zhao kept investigating. Actually, it really didn't have much to do with Chen Zhao. Even if all the contestants died, Chen Zhao wouldn't feel anything. However, Elite and Helis had both participated in the competition. Chen Zhao was more worried that something would happen to them. Zhang Tianyi had been secretly testing Chen Zhao for the past 2 days. Chen Zhao felt that something was going on. It was a bad feeling, because Chen Zhao always felt that Zhang Tianyi was scheming against him. This was also why Chen Zhao had called Aluntarai and Manit over. In terms of scheming, Chen Zhao really couldn't beat Zhang Tianyi. But with Aluntarai and Manit protecting him, Chen Zhao felt much more at ease. Chen Zhao, have you thought about what I said the other day? Zhang Tianyi came to find him again. What is it? You'll take care of everything. If anything happens in the ether world, you'll take care of it. Can't you take care of everything yourself? Don't tell me you can't take care of it. The top person in the world shouldn't be so cowardly. Fuck, you're the top person in the world now, okay? Then I'll be frank. No, I haven't even replied to the $200 million deal. I don't have time for you. I'll give you a much higher price than the Egler family. Oh, looks like you also know that the Egler family is looking for me. Chen Zhao looked at Zhang Tianyi mockingly. How is it? How's the investigation these days? Since you know that I'm investigating, it seems that you've planted many spies on me, right? Are you feeling guilty? Stop bullshitting, Zhang Tianyi shouted angrily. Why would I feel guilty? Look, he's angry out of humiliation. Is he going to kill us to silence us? Zhang Tianyi was so angry that his beard stood up. Is this even human? Why don't you just lie down and let me kill you? Anyway, if you're going to hide it from me, I'll just make excuses. I'll just finish the job I promised. You can figure out the rest yourself. Chen Zhao turned and left. Then, he called Morizer Egler. He agreed to Morizer Egler's employment request. Mr. Chen, when do you have time? You can come and see my daughter first. Chen Zhao had thought that, as the first heir of the Egler family, Monica Egler would also be a beautiful girl. But the truth was not like that. When Chen Zhao saw Monica, she was a 200-kilogram fatty. She looked like a ball. She had brown hair and thick glasses. She did not have the temper of a rich girl. Mr. Chen, hello. I'm Monica. Monica looked at Chen Zhao. I can feel your disappointment. If I say no, will you believe me? Okay. I'm indeed a bit disappointed. Other than being a spiritualist, I'm also a nutritionist and a bodybuilder. Are you interested in the slimming set? I purposely maintain this body, Monica said. Why? Does it have anything to do with your magic system? It's my personal reason. I can't say much. Okay, I said too much. Do you know what's going to happen on the day of the competition? I'll always be by your side. Chapter 31:22. Chun Zhao didn't expect Monica to interact with him. Monica didn't have that arrogant tone or the temper of a rich girl. She was very respectful to Chun Zhao, the judge. Chun Zhao felt that Monica was very different from her father. Monica's father, Mariah Egler, was a pure noble. He was cultured and polite, but his words and actions all exuded a noble's high and mighty. He wouldn't make people feel disgusted, but he gave off a feeling of being 1,000 miles away. Monica was different. She gave Chun Zhao the feeling of a commoner girl. She didn't have an outstanding appearance and spoke like a commoner. She felt like a child in her own family. She was the child of a nouveau riche family. Her living conditions were good, but she didn't have the dogma of a noble. The next day, the contestants all gathered on Island 67. A simple platform was set up on the beach of the island. Zhang Tianyi stood on the stage and used a spell to amplify his voice. He gave a motivational speech to the 1,000 contestants. Then, he arranged for the 1,000 contestants to enter the ether world. Chun Zhao also entered the ether world directly after the speech. He passed through a series of twists and turns in the cave. There were still some dangers along the way, but that was for ordinary people. Slightly stronger cultivators couldn't pose a threat. Not to mention Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao had a lot of experience in moving underground and finding paths. Soon, he found the path to the ether world. He had to admit that when he saw the ether world, he was also shocked by the scene before him. Black volcanoes rose from the ground. Clouds filled with sulfur curled up and formed a dome. Below them was an endless green sea. But what surprised Chun Zhao was that under the clouds, there was a galaxy that crossed the entire ether world. At the same time, it was also the galaxy that brought light to the ether world. The Milky Way was made up of many huge light spheres. Hundreds of thousands of huge light sources filled the ether world with light. Chun Zhao was curious. He flew into the air and approached one of the light spheres. It was an energy sphere with a diameter of about 3 to 4 meters. The energy sphere was spinning slowly. It attracted the surrounding sulfur smoke and turned it into glowing energy. Chun Zhao reached out to touch it. The moment he touched it, the energy sphere exploded. The powerful energy sent Chun Zhao flying. Chun Zhao was surprised. He had only wanted to analyze the structure and energy form of the energy ball. However, this energy ball was very xenophobic. Even a little bit of external energy directly broke the energy balance of the energy sphere. Chun Zhao was even more curious about this thing's structure and energy form. He looked at the energy ball in the sky in a daze. Although one had exploded, the sky was filled with them, and they were like a river of stars. Therefore, it wouldn't have much of an impact. Chun Zhao was curious about where the stars in the sky came from and how they were formed. Unfortunately, he couldn't figure anything out in such a short amount of time. Chun Zhao shook his head. He could only give up. At this time, the contestants had entered one after another. There was more than one path leading to the Taishu world on Island 67, and they were very widely distributed. Some of the tunnels even went below the surface of the sea. He took out his phone and opened the GPS. It didn't take long for him to locate Monica. When Chun Zhao rushed to Monica's side, there was a magical beast lying beside her. "Looks like I'm not late." "Mr. Chun," Monica greeted politely. Chun Zhao glanced at the magical beast lying on the ground. With a curl of his finger, one of its teeth flew into his hand. Actually, the $200 million wasn't just for hiring Chun Zhao as Monica's temporary bodyguard. It was also for advancing. After all, if Monica stayed by Chun Zhao's side, then she wouldn't be able to do anything, let alone advance. Therefore, her advancement naturally fell on Chun Zhao. "Since your father hired me to protect you, you should know where the danger comes from, right?" Chun Zhao asked meaningfully. Monica shook her head. "I only found out not long ago. I'm also confused. After all, I always set off alone during my graduation trip without anyone following me. but I didn't encounter any danger either. I don't understand why the competition this time needs to hire me. Hire you, Mr. Chun. Do you know about the accident that happened in the Taishu world 12 years ago? Monica glanced at Chen Zhao. She could also feel his intentions. His intentions were too obvious. He wanted to get some information from Monica. However, Chen Zhao's methods were a bit rough. He didn't hide anything. I know about the accident 12 years ago, but I don't know how it's directly related to you protecting me. I want to know too. Chen Zhao chuckled. This road is really hard to walk on. Monica wasn't a girl from a rich family. However, even she was annoyed by the dense forest. It was too torturous. There wasn't even a single path. Almost all directions were blocked by dense vegetation. Just then, a figure flew over their heads. However, it wasn't a magical beast, but a contestant. The contestant didn't notice Chen Zhao and Monica below. Looks like walking is really troublesome, Chen Zhao sighed. Sorry, I'm Mr. Chen's burden now. Since Monica could participate in the competition, she definitely had the ability. However, she couldn't fly. This was also one of her disadvantages. Just then, Monica suddenly felt her body lighten. Her body seemed to be lifted up by an invisible hand. Monica was shocked. Of course, she knew that this was Chen Zhao's power. However, wouldn't it be too exhausting? Mr. Chun, you don't have to be like this. I was just complaining. I didn't mean anything else. Chen Zhao also flew up. It's indeed inconvenient to walk. Flying is more suitable. Plus, I don't have that much time to waste on the ground. Monica was lifted into the air by Chen Zhao. Seeing how relaxed Chen Zhao was, Monica also relaxed a little. However, the higher Chen Zhao flew, the more terrified Monica became. Of course, Chen Zhao didn't fly too high. After all, there were sulfur clouds thousands of meters in the air. To Monica, this was a forbidden area. Also, it was dangerous if she got too close to the galaxy. She would explode with a single touch. Who could take it? Just then, Monica looked into the distance. There were some magic waves there. It was very faint, but she could feel it from so far away. It meant that the battle was intense. There's a battle over there. Should we go take a look? In Monica's opinion, since she could see it, Chen Zhao definitely could. Chen Zhao looked in the direction Monica pointed and shook his head. No need. It's a battle between contestants and magical beasts. The contestants won't be in danger. Chapter 31:23. Just then, Monica felt her body fall rapidly. Her falling speed was much faster than free fall. She was so scared that she danced in the air. Help! Help me! Monica frantically searched for Chen Zhao. She thought that Chen Zhao couldn't keep going, so she fell from the sky. But just as she was about to be smashed into meat paste, she suddenly stopped falling. She paused too, but she didn't feel any discomfort. Chen Zhao had already landed on the ground. Mr. Chun, just now. Chen Zhao waved his hand and pointed forward. A black demonic beast was staring at them menacingly. Taiga beast! Monica's expression changed. She was about to explain how terrifying it was when she saw its neck and body twisted into a dough twist. Then the beast's eyeball fell into Chen Zhao's hand. Monica's eyeball almost fell out. So simple. She knew that taiga beasts were disaster-level magical beasts. Furthermore, it was a calamity-level magical beast. They were almost god-level. Her family would organize expeditions to explore the taiga world every year. The biggest headache for the expeditions was encountering taiga beasts. Not only were taiga beasts powerful, but they were also very smart and sharp. They weren't powerful for attacking their prey head-on. Instead, they hid and waited for an opportunity to attack. More often than not, the moment they were discovered was the moment a person died. Rustle. Just then, they heard footsteps behind them. The two contestants appeared behind Chen Zhao and Monica. They saw the taiga beast's corpse before Chen Zhao and Monica and the beast's eyeball in Chen Zhao's hand. Their eyes brightened. They clearly recognized the taiga beast. Every part of the taiga beast was a treasure. A complete corpse like this could be sold for a few million on the market. Of course, the most important thing was that the spoils could be used to exchange for points to advance. Leave the spoils. You two scram. Chen Zhao turned around, and looked at the two. You want to rob me? The competition doesn't prohibit robbing, so don't talk about morals and laws with me. I'm not talking about morals and laws. I just want to confirm that you really want to rob me. Huh? Do you think we're joking? Both contestants laughed, not seeming to realize the seriousness of the situation. Not just you, but her too. Monica looked at the two contestants with sympathy. It was good to have a bodyguard. Since that's the case, I'll rob you too. The two contestants narrowed their eyes at him. Looks like you're very confident in your abilities. But where's your companion? Are you sure she wants to die with you? It was very simple to sow discord. What if Chun Zhao and Monica were both contestants? If they're just partners, perhaps the other party would succeed in sowing discord. Monica smiled and said, his thoughts are my thoughts. His decision is my decision. Looks like you guys want to be directly eliminated. Don't worry, Chun Zhao said, smiling. You won't be eliminated. I just want your loot. Both contestants' faces darkened. One cast spells from afar, while the other charged at Chun Zhao. One of them was a long-range attacker, while the other was a melee attacker. Their teamwork was quite good. Chun Zhao lifted a foot, and the contestant who had charged at him was sent flying. His body pierced dozens of meters through the air, creating a ditch on the ground. The one at the back hadn't even finished preparing a spell. Chun Zhao walked toward the contestant step by step. The long-range attacker panicked even more. His spell, which was only halfway through its channeling, also collapsed in panic. The contestant hurriedly cast a shield on himself. But the next moment, Chun Zhao's palm tore through the shield and grabbed the contestant's neck. He had lost. He had lost completely. But what was more humiliating was that Chun Zhao was shaking the contestant's leg with one hand. Everything on the contestant was tossed out. Then Chun Zhao tossed the contestant aside. What could be more humiliating than this? In the end, he only had the teeth of two disaster-level magical beasts. Let's go. Monica stood in front of the contestant on the ground. Look, this is why he made the decision. Then, Monica followed Chun Zhao. She also understood why Chun Zhao was the judge. At first, Monica thought that she was already very outstanding. She thought that she wasn't that far from the top. But after seeing Chun Zhao, she finally understood that it wasn't a gap anymore. It was a chasm. Monica didn't need to worry about advancing at all. Not long ago, a pitiful god-level magical beast ran into their field of vision. Then Chun Zhao broke its neck, just like the other magical beast before it. It died on sight. There was no room for negotiation. In Monica's eyes, god-level magical beasts were almost undefeatable. But when a god-level magical beast faced Chun Zhao, their roles seemed to be reversed. Monica didn't know how many points the others had accumulated, but she felt that her points were enough to advance. Chun Zhao's efficiency in helping her accumulate points was too high. In this dangerous world, it was like Chun Zhao's back garden. It was like Chun Zhao's back garden. Mr. Chun, it should be enough, right? Monica watched as Chun Zhao broke another magical beast's neck. One disaster-level magical beast, 1 point. Killing a disaster-level magical beast was the same as killing a god-level magical beast. It was as if both were the same to Chun Zhao. Actually, with a god-level magical beast as his foundation, he basically had enough points to advance. There were 256 people who could advance this time. About 1/5, and a god-level magical beast was 99 points. Monica felt that it was enough to enter the top 10. Okay, Chun Zhao pulled out the magical beast's tooth and tossed it to Monica. This magical beast looks so ugly. It should be high level, right? Monica looked at Chun Zhao silently. As expected, he didn't know the level of the magical beasts in the world of space. This was really frustrating. He was probably the only one who could kill a god-level magical beast like a disaster-level one. Suddenly, Chun Zhao looked into the distance. Monica noticed his gaze. Did something happen? Over there. Chun Zhao didn't explain much. He picked up Monica and flew into the sky. Monica felt the scenery in front of her keep retreating. About 10 seconds later, she landed on the ground again. But she didn't expect something. The two contestants she'd met half an hour ago. Now, they'd appear before her again. However, after encountering Chun Zhao, The two contestants seemed to be haunted by bad luck. They'd encountered a god-level magical beast. When the two contestants saw Chun, Zhao, and Monica land, they were overjoyed. Immediately, he was overjoyed. Quick, help us. Let's team up and get rid of this demonic beast. We'll definitely be able to advance. Chun Zhao turned his head to look at the magical beast before him. He recognized it. It was an earth demon dragon. Chapter 31-24. The earth demon dragon had another name. It was a rather peaceful name called Silence. The reason why the earth demon dragon had such a name was because of the characteristics of the earth demon dragon. Although it was called Earth Demon Dragon, it actually didn't have the bloodline of a dragon. The Earth Demon Dragon would launch different attacks based on the volume of the target's voice. Thus, when facing the Earth Demon Dragon, the best choice was to remain silent. The two contestants clearly didn't know the name of the Earth Demon Dragon. So, when they saw Chun, Zhao, and Monica, they immediately started yelling and screaming. Instantly, the Earth Demon Dragon moved. Its huge body appeared behind the two contestants without any warning. The two contestants immediately felt a terrifying aura behind them. Their bodies stiffened. They slowly turned their heads. Ah! Help! The two fearless contestants screamed even louder. Chun Zhao frowned. The Earth Demon Dragon bit down. The two contestants would die, for sure. Chun Zhao finally moved. With a wave of his hand, the Earth Demon Dragon was sent flying. Boom! The Earth Demon Dragon was smashed hundreds of meters away. Monica looked at Chun Zhao in shock. This was the first time she saw Chun Zhao attack. A real attack. Before this, Chun Zhao hadn't moved at all. He could kill any magical beast instantly. But this time, Chun Zhao actually attacked. Chun Zhao had to. The Earth Demon Dragon was different from ordinary magical beasts. Its upper limit was very high. It was even higher than Shangqing Realm cultivators. The two contestants' eyes almost fell out. We should get a share of its spoils too, right? We should get a share too, right? The two pulled Chun Zhao. A god-level magical beast can be split among 5 people. We should all get a share, right? Chun Zhao only thought that the two were noisy. He glanced at them. No, you're eliminated. What did you say? How can you say we're eliminated? Chun Zhao ignored the two. Just then, the Earth Demon Dragon charged back at an astonishing speed. At the same time, as the Earth Demon Dragon charged forward, lava spewed out of the ground continuously. Gravel flew up too. The Earth Demon Dragon's element was earth and fire. It could control the earth and lava. Seeing such a ferocious Earth Demon Dragon, the two contestants were scared out of their wits. Fuck off. Chun Zhao pushed the two contestants away. He reached out with one hand and pushed the Earth Dragon's chin. Chun Zhao followed up with an uppercut. The demonic Earth Dragon fell to the ground, but crawled back up in the next moment. The power of the demonic Earth Dragon had been revealed. There weren't many people who could face Chun Zhao head-on. Even fewer could take a punch from Chun Zhao. Of course, this was also because Chun Zhao had shown mercy. Chun Zhao had already killed a god-level magical beast. These were the points for Monica's advancement. Therefore, Chun Zhao didn't need to kill one more. Zhang Qianni had told him to try his best not to kill the deity-level demonic beasts of the Tai Long world. After all, there weren't many deity-level magical beasts here. Killing one meant one less. Once, when Chun Zhao went underground, he encountered an Earth Demon Dragon. Later on, he found records of the demonic dragon in an ancient book, so he had a deep impression of it. This thing was indeed very resistant to beatings. Moreover, the recipes were quite rich. When there was nothing to eat, rocks could also fill one's stomach. He could even drink a few mouthfuls of lava. If there was prey, living creatures could also fill their stomachs. It wasn't difficult to kill the demonic Earth Dragon either. However, it was useless to just destroy their external bodies. The demonic Earth Dragon had a core. As long as the core wasn't destroyed, they could continuously absorb energy from the earth and lava to repair their bodies. Fighting the demonic Earth Dragon would definitely create a loud sound. At least, such punches wouldn't be silent. This also caused the demonic Earth Dragon's strength to keep increasing. Of course, There was a limit to this kind of strengthening. Nothing was truly invincible. Even Chun Zhao didn't dare to say that he was invincible, let alone the demonic earth dragon. However, if he didn't kill it, it wouldn't stop bothering him. Chun Zhao decided to give it a vicious one. Chun Zhao suddenly punched and pierced through the demonic earth dragon's chest. It left a 2-meter wide hole in its chest. The remaining power even shook the demonic earth dragon's core. As expected, the demonic earth dragon was scared. It flipped over and fled without even repairing the hole in its chest. Chun Zhao exhaled. It finally ran away. If it continued to be stubborn, Chun Zhao would probably kill it. Why didn't you kill it? It's a god-level magical beast. You clearly have the power. Hurry up and chase after it and kill it. How can you let go? Chun Zhao hated people who didn't know their place and didn't know when to stop. The two contestants immediately felt their bodies being restrained. Chun Zhao picked up his phone. Coordinates 544,144-1. 2 contestants eliminated. Chun Zhao sent the coordinates to the person in charge of elimination. The person in charge of eliminating contestants was also the judge. The main person in charge was the 23rd generation Blood Mary. She was in charge of the backline. Under normal circumstances, she wouldn't appear. Specialized departments would take over. When the 2 contestants saw Chun Zhao contact the eliminated team members, they realized that Chun Zhao wasn't a contestant but a judge. Both of their faces immediately turned red. Thinking back to their previous actions, they wanted to crawl into a hole. It was so embarrassing. They actually dared to steal the prize from the judge. Then they even wanted to split the prize with Chun Zhao. The first time was fine, but the second time was when their lives were in danger. Chun Zhao's action meant that they were eliminated. The judges would only act when the contestants were in danger. They would choose whether or not to act based on their own judgment. When the judges felt that they had to act, it meant that the contestants' lives were in danger. This also meant that they couldn't continue the competition. Unfair. It's unfair. She's a contestant too. Why could she get your protection? Why are we eliminated? This world is unfair, Chun Zhao said indifferently. Plus, do you have the right to talk about fairness with me? Their faces turned red, even though they were angry that Chun Zhao had embarrassed them. They were angry that Chun Zhao had embarrassed them, but it was hard for them to retort. Not long after, the members of the elimination department arrived. They both wore masks. After confirming Chun Zhao's identity, they took the 2 contestants away. Technically, I'm also cheating, right? Monica said emotionally. After all, the 2 contestants had been eliminated right in front of her. No, you're not eliminated because you paid $200 million. If everyone can get a promotion spot after paying $200 million, I think the organizers would be willing to sell it publicly. It's just a competition. The promotion spot is really expensive. But I'm curious. Since the Egler family is so rich, logically speaking, you should be able to get a top contestant, right? But not only did you not, you're also so weak. Only a few of you have awakened. I really don't understand. Chapter 31:25. When Chun Zhao first heard about the Egler family, he didn't think much of it. But then he realized that something wasn't right. The Egler family wasn't a millennium-old family, but it had a few hundred years of history. At its peak, the family's influence and power weren't inferior to Chun Zhao's former enemy, the millennium-old Filer family. The Filer family had been isolated from the world for hundreds of years. They had almost no contact with the spiritual world. They only had commercial activities. But even so, the Filer family could still maintain a strong fighting force. They could scoop up a few top fighters. Those few top fighters weren't enough to face a real top fighter. They were at most second-rate. But it wasn't hard to see the power and foundation of a millennium-old family. The Egler family wasn't any weaker than the Filer family. Plus, the Egler family didn't have any great enemies, nor did they ruin the family's reputation. So, the Egler family had been in contact with the spiritual world for hundreds of years. For example, the World Supernatural Competition. The Egler family even used the 100 Ku Islands as the competition venue. It was clear that the Egler family was quite influential. But it was such an influential family. Not to mention a peerless combat power. Even the family only had 5 awakened. 2 of them were children. What was this? Was this the foundation a top family should have? Unless all the members of the Egler family were infertile. Otherwise, it was hard to imagine how such a big family could be so weak. The Egler family wasn't a small family. They didn't have money or resources. The Egler family was very rich and had the 100 Ku Islands. They didn't lack resources. They could easily take out $200 million and throw it at Chen Zhao's face. It had nothing to do with being poor. As long as they had money and resources, even a pig could become a top fighter. So Chen Zhao didn't believe that the Egler family only had 5 awakened like the rumors said. Plus, the father and daughter Monica and Maurice that Chen Zhao had interacted with so far weren't rich kids. As the patriarch, Merit Haragal was obviously well-educated and cultured. Although they did not interact much with Chen Zhao, few people would feel enmity towards someone like Meriwether Agler. He always knew how to maintain friendships. Although Monica didn't seem to have her father's aristocratic upbringing. However, she was also a humble and smart girl. Her appearance was not outstanding, so people might think that she was a brainless fat woman. But in reality, being fat was just her disguise. Chen Zhao could feel that Monica was a rather meticulous and smart girl. Both father and daughter had powerful genes, and they were able to unleash their full potential. With such powerful genes and a good family upbringing, it was impossible for him to survive. Chen Zhao didn't believe that the powerful Agel family would weaken for no reason. Of course, in principle, this was their family's own private secret. Chen Zhao didn't really want to ask. However, Chen Zhao was worried that the secret would affect the safety of the match. In terms of his duty, he really didn't want to meddle in other people's business. But if something really happened, it was impossible for Chen Zhao to stay out of it. As for whether Monica knew what was going on, Chen Zhao couldn't tell either. After all, Chen Zhao wasn't an intellectual type. Besides, Monica wasn't the enemy. Therefore, Chen Zhao couldn't be suspicious just because of a little. He would pull out Monica's tendons and skin her so that she would tell the truth. However, Chen Zhao believed that if something really happened, Monica would be the most important person. Monica followed Chen Zhao from time to time. Ever since the 2 contestants were eliminated, Monica had stopped walking. Ever since the 2 contestants were eliminated, Chen Zhao hadn't killed another magical beast. More accurately, he hadn't encountered one on his own. Every time he encountered one, it meant that there were contestants present. It also meant that some contestants would be eliminated. Clearly, Chen Zhao was avoiding the magical beasts on purpose. Mr. Chen, your perception range is really large. Yes, from what I know, there shouldn't be more than 3 people in the world with a greater perception range than mine. Is there anyone else with greater perception than Mr. Chen? One of them is the person who taught me this technique. He's also one of the judges this year, the leader of the fire worship sect, Mr. Bifla. For people like Chen Zhao, magic and whatnot were secondary. At most, he would teach them techniques. What about the other 2? The other one is the main judge, Zhang Tianyi, Chen Zhao said with a shrug. Monica agreed with this. One had taught Chen Zhao, so his perception definitely wouldn't be lower than Chen Zhao's. The other was Zhang Tianyi. As the top person in the spiritual world, this name wasn't out of Monica's expectations. What about the 3rd person? I don't know. I'll leave one empty. I think there'll be 1 or 2 people, Chen Zhao said casually. Suddenly, his expression changed. Someone's in trouble again. Looks like the elimination rate here is really high. That's right, Chen Zhao said casually. Monica immediately prepared herself. She rose into the air and fell. Although she was mentally prepared, she still felt extremely uncomfortable at such a high speed. Help! Help! Seeing Chen Zhao and Monica land, the contestant ran toward Chen Zhao, covered in wounds. Chen Zhao frowned at the magical beast that was chasing him. This magical beast seemed different. The magical beast panted heavily. Saliva dripped from its slightly cracked mouth. It had no pupils. Its eyes were completely black. Chen Zhao could clearly feel that it was of the fire and wind element, but black lightning flowed on its body. It wasn't a god-tier magical beast, but it vaguely exuded the might of a god-tier magical beast. Chen Zhao raised his hand and grabbed at the magical beast. Huh? Chen Zhao was stunned. No reaction. Chen Zhao realized that he'd lost control of his efficiency. More accurately, he'd lost control of the small world around the magical beast. The next moment, a black lightning bolt suddenly shot out of the magical beast and struck Chen Zhao. Boom! With a huge explosion, Chen Zhao was sent flying. Monica was shocked. What happened? The magical beast actually hurt Chen Zhao? The begging contestant was filled with despair. He'd thought that his savior had come. He didn't expect Chen Zhao to be so useless. Chen Zhao stood up in a sorry state. He felt his small world. It was operating normally, but there was an empty area. It was where the magical beast was. His small world had been neutralized by the magical beast's power. Chen Zhao was even more shocked. How did it happen? Just then, a person walked out from behind the magical beast. The person stood beside the magical beast, and it didn't attack him. I heard that there's a new judge this year. Is that you? Chapter 31:26. Judge? You're the judge? The contestant who'd asked for help earlier was shocked. The next moment, disappointment appeared on his face. Why are you so weak? Chen Zhao and Monica ignored the contestant. The uninvited guest also ignored him. He was an insignificant, transparent person. The uninvited guest looked at Monica. Monica, you don't seem to recognize me. Chen Zhao looked at Monica. You recognize him? Monica frowned and thought for a while. Then she shook her head. I don't have any impression of him. Chen Zhao looked at the uninvited guest. Sir, it seems like you got the wrong person. Ha! You don't seem to be worth $200 million at all. Chen Zhao shrugged. If you judge based on that, you'll probably die a horrible death. What if it's them? The uninvited guest raised his hand and waved. Magical beasts walked out of the forest one after another. Chen Zhao was dazed. These magical beasts were the same as the previous one. They could both neutralize Chen Zhao's pocket world. Chen Zhao's senses were also in a hurry to enter the pocket world. So, they were transparent. If Chen Zhao didn't sense them specifically, he wouldn't be able to discover them. After all, he could sense hundreds of square kilometers. Without a square kilometer, even Chen Zhao would find it hard to discover them. These magical beasts weren't actually very strong. They were at the peak of the calamity level, close to God level. The person seemed to be confident in this battle. Monica, I suggest you come with me. He can't protect you. What if I refuse? Monica looked at the stranger. It doesn't matter to me. Whether you obey or resist, it won't change anything, the person said. Then he looked at Chen Zhao. Am I right? Chen Zhao chuckled. You're the first person who dares to ask me this. Fine. Looks like I need to kill a judge to prove my ability. The person waved his hand. A few magical beasts beside him suddenly pounced at Chen Zhao. Monica's face showed some concern. The contestant's face was filled with despair. In the blink of an eye, a magical beast's bloody mouth covered Chen Zhao. It swallowed Chen Zhao alive. That person revealed a hint of a smile. How weak. But the next moment, the magical beast that had swallowed Chen Zhao exploded. Chen Zhao stood there calmly, as if nothing had happened. So weak, Chen Zhao said the same thing. The corner of that person's eye twitched slightly. However, the dozens of demonic beasts around him were innately the bane of the small world. He was still confident in his victory, so he still had a victorious smile on his face. Now, let me demonstrate why I am the referee. Chen Zhao stretched his limbs. Primordial regression technique, level 1. Chen Zhao's aura changed. That person's eyelids twitched, clearly having a premonition that something bad was about to happen. Suddenly, Chen Zhao disappeared. An ear-piercing sound pierced through the air. The man's ears couldn't take it anymore. He covered his ears, but couldn't stop the piercing pain. Then he saw the scene of the magical beast beside him exploding. However, the scene was like a slow-motion scene in a movie. Blood splattered everywhere as magical beasts exploded one by one. It was a chaotic mix of fast and slow. Dozens of terrifying demonic beasts actually exploded in an instant. When the piercing sound stopped, Chun Zhao returned to his original spot. From start to finish, only a second had passed. Perhaps not even a second. All the magical beasts had turned into fireworks of blood and flesh. Monica and that person were both dumbfounded. Was there only a beginning in their minds? But in reality, it was already over. Chun Zhao looked at that person. Next, you will die. Wait. You misunderstood. I'm not an enemy. The person hurriedly called out. My enemies often answer me like this when they beg for mercy, but guess if I believe them or not. I'm serious, the person said. I'm not an enemy. I'm Monica's brother. Chun Zhao turned his head to Monica. He said, he's your brother? Monica shook her head and said in a very certain tone, I don't know him, and I've never heard that I have a brother, not even dead ones. Looks like you're not. Chun Zhao looked at that person again. I'm real, the person said hurriedly. I'm Romance Rendezvous. I'm her older brother. She has a second brother who's here too. You say you're Monica's brother. Do you have any proof? Romance Rendezvous hurriedly took out a gold pendant and tossed it to Monica. Monica caught the pendant with hesitation in her eyes. You should know this pendant, right? Romance Rendezvous asked. Monica seemed to recognize this pendant. The pendant could be opened, and there was a small, exquisite, but incomplete gemstone hidden inside. Monica frowned and also took out a ring from her bosom. The ring was inlaid with a gem, and it just so happened to match the gap in the gem. However, the two were still incomplete when put together. There seemed to be a part missing. Monica nodded at Chun Zhao. Even if you prove that you're Monica's brother that she's never met, it doesn't mean you're safe. You want to kill your sister, so you still have to die. No, I'm not going to kill Monica. I just want to take her away. Her second brother, Tace, and I came here to save Monica, Rendezvous Audiobook said. So you know that someone wants to kill Monica, and it's not you and Monica's second brother? Of course we're not going to kill Monica. So you know who wants to kill Monica? It's our father, Romance Rendezvous said. Stop joking. This doesn't make sense. Chun Zhao shook his head. First, he would spend $200 million to protect Monica, then kill her, increasing the difficulty for him. I know this doesn't make sense, but it's the truth. Our father has been planning something since 30 years ago. Tace and I have been hunted down by our father. All right, Monica had a third brother, but he's already dead. It was our father who killed him. That's right. Monica had a third brother, but he's already dead. Compared to you, I'm more willing to believe Mr. Morizer, who spent $200 million to hire me. Chun Zhao was a bit confused. He could vaguely feel Romance Rendezvous' anxiety and urgency. He seemed to be anxious because he couldn't convince Chun Zhao and Monica. He was also worried about something. But just as Chun Zhao had said, he couldn't go against common sense and believe Romance Rendezvous' words. Plus, Chun Zhao didn't think that Morizer would be stupid enough to increase the difficulty for him. And it seemed to be very easy for Morizer Agler to kill his daughter. Monica would almost never be on guard against her father. Plus, could a pendant really prove their relationship? Chapter 31:27. Of course, Chun Zhao didn't know if Monica could confirm their relationship through a pendant. Judging from Monica's expression, she probably could. However, even though Monica confirmed that Rendezvous Agler was her brother, she didn't trust him, because she didn't know if Rendezvous Agler was telling the truth. She was naturally wary of this brother who she'd never met and had come out of nowhere. Ramond had said that her father wanted to kill her, but Monica was still more willing to trust her father. Not this brother who'd suddenly visited and attacked them first. The contestant didn't know if he should stay or leave. The contestants didn't know whether they should stay or leave. After all, according to the rules, Chun Zhao's attack meant that he was eliminated. After all, according to the rules, if Chun Zhao attacked, it meant that he was eliminated. Chun Zhao glanced at the contestant and then notified the eliminated team members. He didn't waste any time. The contestant knew that it was too late. Chun Zhao glanced at the contestant and then notified the eliminated team members. The current situation was somewhat complicated. Monica and Chun Zhao didn't trust Ramond Egler. And if they were real siblings, Monica would definitely not be able to lay her hands on Rendezvous Audiobook. Just then, a flying magical beast descended from the sky. On top of the flying magical beast stood a man. The flying magical beast looked like a huge bird, but it had small claws on its wings. It lay on the ground. Its mouth was like a bird's beak, but there were rows of sharp teeth on its upper and lower jaws. It looked like a winged dragon. It was huge, at least 30 to 40 tons. It was like a small mountain on the ground. It emitted a powerful and terrifying aura. It was a god-level magical beast. After the man dismounted from the flying magic beast, the flying magic beast obediently lay down beside the man. Ramund, you still haven't taken Monica away? Taser. Ramund was a bit awkward. They were brothers, but his younger brother, Taser, seemed to be the leader. Seeing the corpses of the magical beasts, Tace Aggle frowned. Ramush, you lost? Taser, he's very powerful, Ramush Aggle reminded. Don't find excuses for your incompetence, Taser said. Monica, come here. Tate Agler looked at Monica and said in a commanding tone. Monica was unmoved. Clearly, she had no feelings for either Lamont or Taser. Ramund Egler was still all right. At least his attitude was not that unacceptable. But this second brother's attitude was quite uncomfortable. Come here, Tace Agler emphasized. Chun Zhao snorted. The magical beast next to Tess suddenly spread its wings and blocked Tess Agler. The wings of the magical beast emitted a heavy, explosive sound, as if something heavy had smashed into them. Tess Agle's expression darkened. The demonic beast beside him spread its wings to the fullest like a fighting rooster. The demonic beast let out a high-pitched cry, its voice as loud as a bell. In an instant, hundreds of flying magical beasts were summoned. The scene that blotted out the sky caused Monica's expression to change. She couldn't help but look back at Chun Zhao worriedly. The two brothers seemed to have a way to control magical beasts. The magical beast that Ramund Egler controlled could neutralize the enemy's small world and make the enemy's small world lose its effect. One had to admit that this ability was very effective against the top Shang-Qing experts. Of course, this ability could only be effective against those who had just entered Shang-Qing. For example, any one of the 8 referees could beat Ramund Egler up at any moment. Tace's ability was even more special. Chun Zhao could sense that the magical beast summoned by Tess Agel had created small worlds of various sizes according to their own strength. Apart from the original god-level magical beast, the other magical beast's small worlds weren't big. They were a dozen meters, 20 meters, or even 30 meters. However, the small worlds of the magical beasts actually merged with each other. Then, they spread out with the Dragonhawk as the center. Scram if you don't want to die, Tyler said arrogantly. I think I know why your father wants to get rid of you. What an annoying personality. Hearing Chun Zhao mention their father, Tyler Agler was even more furious. The Dragonhawk beside him felt its master's anger and also screeched at Chun Zhao. You won't blame me if I kill him, right? Chun Zhao asked, turning his head. Monica's expression was somewhat hesitant. She couldn't be completely sure, but she could vaguely feel that they were indeed her brothers. Mr. Chun, can you please have mercy? Fine. Chun Zhao nodded. What a joke. I need him. Shut up. Suddenly, Chun Zhao's voice boomed like thunder. The territory on the Dragonhawk disintegrated instantly. The magical beasts in the sky also fell like rain. The sky fell and the earth cracked. The brothers, Tyler Agler and Ramon Agler, were horrified by what they saw. The world really seemed to be collapsing. The two brothers sat on the ground. They seemed to have lost all strength and couldn't stand up. They couldn't even raise their arms. Terror. It was a terror that was imprinted in the depths of their souls. In an instant, they felt absolute suppression and a horrifying scene. It was a scene of doomsday. They didn't know if it was real or just an illusion. Even the territory collapsed. They didn't understand why it was like this at all. As for the dragon-winged bird, it lay on the ground, trembling. Standing beside Chun Zhao, Monica didn't understand what had happened. She only saw Chun Zhao roar. But other than that, she didn't feel anything else. What had happened? Okay, let's go, Chun Zhao said calmly. Monica looked at the two trembling brothers in front of her and nodded silently. Just as she was about to leave with Chun Zhao, Tyler suddenly shouted, Wait. Chen Zhao turned his head and looked at Tyler. What? Do you really want me to kill you? When Tyler looked at Chen Zhao, his eyes were filled with unconcealable fear. Don't let Morris come into contact with Monica, Tyler Agler said. Perhaps it was best for Monica to stay by Chen Zhao's side. Of course, the main reason was that they couldn't do anything about it. I'll only protect her during the competition, Chen Zhao said calmly. Or, give me a reason why your father wants to kill Monica. Chapter 31:28. Ramush Eigler and Tace Eigler shook their heads. We don't know either. 25 years ago, he attacked us without any reason. Chen Zhao smiled and didn't continue asking. 25 years ago, they might not have known. But today, 25 years later, they must know. Otherwise, how would they know that Morriser wanted to kill Monica? If Chen Zhao could think of this, the meticulous Monica could too. Chen Zhao and Monica left. The expressions of the two brothers were somewhat unsightly. Taser, what do you think the old man is trying to do? In any case, they won't have any good intentions. Tess said with a cold expression, we had better find suitable magical beasts as soon as possible to recover our strength. If before that, Taser suddenly paused, as if he had realized something. Go. Leave this place immediately. Taser's expression became anxious and terrified. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared in front of him. Maurice Eigler, their father. Morriser Eigel strolled over, and the surrounding plants automatically made way for him. Tace Agler and Ramush Agler's expressions changed. Fear, shock, and bewilderment. Do you think the $200 million was well spent? Mariah Egler smiled and looked at his two sons. Did you release the news? Did you purposely leak the news that we're going to kill Monica? Tace Agler's eyes were filled with fear and resentment. Not only that, but the $200 million also helped me solve a lot of problems. Maurice Eigel's plan was to deliberately spread the news and attract his two sons. What he didn't expect was that Chen Zhao would also help him destroy the abilities of his two sons. Otherwise, even he would have to put in a lot of effort. After all, both of his sons' abilities were extremely difficult to deal with. But now, Chen Zhao had helped him solve most of his problems. Chen Zhao's best guess was that both his sons and Chen Zhao would be heavily injured. Or, Chen Zhao would die in the hands of his two sons, and then Chen Zhao would be like a mantis stalking a cicada. Tess Agler suddenly laughed. Old man, you haven't won yet. Do you think you're very smart? Morider Agler looked at his second son disapprovingly. Isn't the current situation enough to explain the problem? Or do you still have the strength to fight back? We can't beat you, but as long as Monica is under the protection of that referee, you won't be able to succeed. Haha, as long as I get what I want from you, I won't fear anyone. The Agel family will rise again in my hands. You want the power of Amantha? Come and get it yourself. The two brothers were obviously prepared to resist stubbornly, even if they knew it was futile. But as long as he could make his father suffer, even if it was just to buy time, it would be fine. How stubborn. Morider Agler looked at his two sons unhappily. The next moment, green liquid began to drip from Meritor Agler's palms. When the green liquid touched the plants on the ground, they began to grow crazily. After the plants grew to a certain extent, they began to interweave with each other, forming human shapes. The humanoid figures of these plants all had their own domains. It was completely different from Taylor and Ramush's power. Morriser Egler's power was in the domain of plants. It looked similar to the domain that Taser had bestowed upon the magical beasts. In fact, it was completely different. Morriser Egler's domain should be called the anti-domain. It was the nemesis of all domains, and it was even more effective against Taser and Ramush. The so-called anti-domain meant that when it came into contact with a regular domain, both would be annihilated at the same time. The power of annihilation was very terrifying, especially for the one with the domain. It would be annihilated directly from a body. Of course, Morriser Egler would be affected too, but he happened to have a way to resist annihilation. So once the positive and negative domains were annihilated, the one who died was usually the other party. But Morriser Egler's power was not perfect yet. Only after combining the power of Taser and Ramush could his power truly reach a perfect state. A humanoid made of plants raised its hand, and branches shot towards Taser and Ramush. The dragon hawk beside Taser flapped its wings, creating a whirlwind. The branches could not get close. But the other plant humanoids also shot their branches at the dragonhawk. In the blink of an eye, the dragonhawk was tightly bound. The dragonhawk struggled a few times as a token gesture, but it soon calmed down. Not long after, the dragonhawk lost control of itself. It then became Morizer Egler's puppet. The dragonhawk's domain merged with the humanoid plant's anti-domain. An even more terrifying power was brewing on the dragonhawk. The domain around the dragonhawk became colorful, but the air was distorted. Taser and Ramush quickly retreated. What a wonderful power. Even though it's an incomplete fusion, it's still such a wonderful scene. I really can't imagine how powerful I'll be after I perfectly fuse all of your powers. After being controlled, the dragonhawk suddenly opened its mouth and shot out a ball of energy. This ball of energy contained the power of annihilation. Go away. Ramush pushed Taser away and placed his palms in front of him. When the annihilation energy flew in front of him, Ramush also released his power at the same time. His power was to neutralize the domain, but he could only use his own power to weaken the annihilation energy a little. The next moment, his palms were crushed and evaporated by the annihilation energy. Fortunately, Morizer Egler did not intend to completely destroy Ramush and Taser. Otherwise, this attack would have directly evaporated them. Taser, take my things away. Ramush knelt on the ground in pain. His arms had been completely annihilated. Taser's expression was unsettled. He looked at his father with eyes full of hatred. Hurry, you only have a chance if you obtain my power. Ramush knew that he no longer had a chance, but his hatred for his father was greater than anything else. Even if he died, even if he lost everything, he would not hesitate. Taser suddenly pierced through Ramush's chest. Ramush's face twitched. He looked down at Taser's arm and laughed bitterly. Kill him, or destroy that thing. Taser pulled out his bloody arm. In his palm was a black metal heart. The black metal heart dissolved in Taser's palm and turned into black liquid that seeped under Taser's skin. Ramush smiled. How wonderful. However, his smile froze and he fell to the ground. Taser looked at his father with tears in his eyes. I want you to die. Morizer Egler smiled. You know, I could have directly taken your power, but I didn't. Do you know why? Chapter 31:29. Is this real? Monica stared at Tess Agler in disbelief. Xinjiao also looked at Tess Agler. Do you have anything to explain? Tess Agler shook his head. No. Xinjiao nodded and turned to Morizer. I'm going to take him back for interrogation. Mr. Morizer, you don't have any objections, right? He's from the Agel family and my son, Morizer said firmly. This is the Agel family's territory. I have the right and reason to punish him. Chen Zhao chuckled. Mr. Morizer, maybe my tone made you misunderstand. I'm not discussing with you. Are you going to interfere with the Agel family's business? This is the competition venue. As the referee, I have the right to punish and rule anyone here. Mr. Chun, don't you understand? This is my territory. I don't mind changing the leader of the Agel family. Chen Zhao's eyes glinted fiercely. Mr. Chun, I respect you, but that doesn't mean I'm afraid of you. I hope you understand this. Yes, I definitely understand. Chen Zhao nodded. But you should be afraid. I've never been a talkative person. I don't like to waste time with people either. I prefer to fight. Morizer Agel's palm started to gather the anti-domain. The anti-domain sphere flashed with black light and emitted a terrifying aura. Taser Egler had to die. Maurice Eigel did not intend to be secretive and put on an act anymore. He had to make a choice in a more forceful manner. As long as he obtained Taser's power and Monica's power, he wouldn't be afraid of anyone. He would no longer be afraid of anyone. Even if he were to face the Big Six, he would have the right to speak. Chen Zhao felt that Morizer Agel's power was somewhat familiar. It was the power of his inner world. But it wasn't complete. Chen Zhao could also release his inner world. He could restore the environment of his inner world. But Mori their Agil only released a portion of his inner world's power. Mr. Chen, one last question. Are you really prepared to be my enemy? Chen Zhao laughed mockingly. Are you sure you have the strength to ask me this question? Morris snorted and pushed his palm at Chen Zhao. The anti-domain energy ball shot toward Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao reached out to take it. Tess Agil's expression changed drastically, and he shouted, "Don't touch!" But it was too late. Chen Zhao's palm had already reached the anti-domain energy ball. But the next moment, both Tess and Morris stared at Chen Zhao, dumbfounded. Chen Zhao used his body to grab the anti-territory energy ball, but he wasn't hurt at all. The anti-domain energy ball was also balanced in Chen Zhao's palm. He didn't hurt Chen Zhao, nor did he lose control. Neither of them knew that the reverse domain they were talking about was actually their inner world. Of course, Chen Zhao didn't know that they called this the reverse domain. How is that possible? Meriwether stared at Chen Zhao in disbelief. This was too illogical. No one, no matter, could remove the counter-domain. But why was he able to use his flesh and blood to dispel the counter-domain and remain unharmed? How did you do it? How? Chen Zhao thought for a second. I didn't do anything. What do you think I should do? What can this thing do? Hurt me? Or kill me? Meriwether Agil couldn't accept this. He put his palms together, and more anti-domain energy balls appeared around him. Is that all you can do? Chen Zhao tilted his head and looked at Meriwether Agil. Although Meriwether Agil had materialized his inner world, it didn't have any attributes. He could only materialize it with this kind of energy. It was also very unstable and could collapse at any time. Let me teach you how to use this power. Suddenly, Meriwether Agil felt the anti-domain energy ball collapse. At the same time, a wave of heat rushed toward him. Everything around him turned into a molten hell. The temperature almost melted everything. Even Meriwether Agil couldn't bear it. He could only cover his entire body with the power of his counter-domain. But even so, he could still feel his skin burning. Monica and Taser Agler were both under Chen Zhao's protection. Meriwether Agil wanted to take out Chen Zhao's inner world and materialize it. But he realized that he'd lost control of his body. You're so weak. Why do you think you have the right to decide? Meriwether Agil's face paled. He could vaguely feel it. The surroundings were filled with counter-domains. They were larger, more stable, and more perfect than his counter-domains. In fact, the inner world needed to maintain a balance with the outer world. But Meriwether Agil's inner world didn't belong to him at all. He was only borrowing this power. He didn't really have it. There was no outer world either. Even if he borrowed it, the amount of power he could borrow was very limited. How is it possible? Why? Why do you have Sacred Michael's power too? Why do you have the complete Sacred Michael's power? And it's complete too? Sacred Michael's power? Chen Zhao looked at Meriwether Agil. You said this is Sacred Michael's power? I've never heard of the power of Sacred Michael. This is Sacred Michael's power. You can't lie to me. Foolish mortals, Monica suddenly said, but her tone seemed to have turned into someone else's. You don't understand at all, Monica said. You're facing a real god. Frowning, Chen Zhao looked at Monica. Who are you? Chen Zhao was very sure that it wasn't Monica who was speaking. You can call me Pioneer or Sacred Michael, Monica said calmly. Monica said calmly, I really can't believe that my theory has been perfectly verified by you. Your theory? Yes. The heart domain, the heaven domain, and the stairs are combined to reach a whole new level, a power that surpasses God's. I failed, but I'm very happy to see someone succeed. I think you're wrong. I've never heard of your method, but I can roughly understand what you're saying. Maybe the details are different, but our paths are similar. How did you solve the problem of bearing? I failed at this stage. In the end, my body collapsed under the dual pressure of the heart domain and the heaven domain. Chen Zhao shrugged. I'm an enhancer. No, that's not right. I've calculated. Even enhancers can't bear the pressure of this power. Chapter 31:30. Okay, you're already dead. You don't belong to this era. Those who deserve to die should go to the place where they deserve to die. Don't try to resurrect yourself, or I'll send you back to sleep. Chun Zhao flicked his fingers, and a purple light shot out from Monica's forehead. Chun Zhao scooped through the air, and the purple light landed in his palm. Monica also trembled slightly, and her body fell to the ground. What happened? I just lost consciousness? Monica wasn't sure what had happened to her just now. At this time, Tess Agler and Mariah Agler were both dumbfounded. They'd been frightened by Monica and Chun Zhao's conversation. No, more accurately, it was the conversation between Saint Michael and Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao was a being that was above Sacred Michael. And Chun Zhao had done what Saint Michael couldn't do. Mariah was even more panicked now, because he was fighting Chun Zhao. His ultimate goal was to complete Saint Michael's unfinished path. In fact, everything he was doing now was arranged by Sacred Michael. Saint Michael had failed at the last step and died in the end. But according to Saint Michael's legacy, the last step could be completed. But now, it wasn't a question of whether it could be completed, because Chun Zhao was an insurmountable mountain. Even if he'd obtained all of Saint Michael's power and succeeded in the end at most, he'd be on par with Chun Zhao. But being on par was just a dream. At the end of the day, his power didn't belong to him. But Chun Zhao had his own power. So there was an insurmountable gap between the two. Not to mention the current Morizer Agler. Chun Zhao looked at Mercer Agler. The temperature around Meridher Agler suddenly rose. Mariah felt more and more uncomfortable, or more accurately, in pain. If not for Saint Michael's power protecting him, he would probably have turned to dust by now. But he knew very well that he didn't have the complete power of Saint Michael. It wouldn't last long. Mr. Chun. Monica wanted to plead for her father. Chun Zhao glanced at Monica indifferently. Don't say anything. Your father has a reason to die. Even you don't have the right to plead for him. Wait, Tess Agel called out. What? Are you going to plead for him? Before that, please take out his heart. Of course, Tess Agel would not plead for his father. If possible, he was willing to do it himself. He had no feelings for Mariah D. Egler. There was only hatred, an unforgettable hatred. Why? The power of Sacred Michael is attached to the heart. As long as the heart is removed, the power of Sacred Michael can be transferred. Chun Zhao stroked his chin in thought. Without the power of Sacred Gale, Monica will never be able to break through her current realm. I can exchange all my wealth with you. It'll be a piece of cake for you. How much money do you have? 2 billion USD, but not all of it is in cash. Most of it is in real estate. I don't want to, Monica said. Mr. Chun, please let my father go. Monica, he even wants to kill you. Your third brother was only 4 years old at the time. He killed him and stole his power. Monica's face paled. Father, is he telling the truth? Morris Agler looked at Monica and suddenly reached into his chest. He directly dug out his own heart. Wah! Mariah spat out a mouthful of blood. Then he silently threw it to Monica. The black heart floated before Monica. It's yours, Mariah Agler said. The corners of Monica's mouth trembled slightly. Mariah seemed to have silently agreed with Taser's words. The black heart disintegrated in the air, and the black energy seeped into Monica's body, even without Monica's guidance or resistance. But the same origin would allow the power of Sacred Michael to choose its successor nearby. In the next moment, Maurice Agler revealed a smile. But this smile would become an eternal scar. The flames instantly burned Mariah, who had lost the protection of Sacred Michael's power, to ashes. Not a single piece was left, no. Monica cried out in grief and indignation. Chun Zhao retracted his inner world and glanced at Tace. I hope the reward won't be too long. Suddenly, Chun Zhao felt the ground shake. Huh? What happened? Right at this moment, a huge magical beast rushed out of the dense forest and charged towards them. Chun Zhao kicked the magical beast away. But the beast shook its head and stood up again, charging toward Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao released his aura, but the beast didn't know fear. Chun Zhao had no choice but to kill and destroy the magical beast physically. Has this magical beast gone mad? But the next moment, more beasts charged out. These magical beasts charged forward in a frenzy. Chen Zhao frowned and looked at Tace. You did this. Previously, Taser Aggle and his brother Ramush Aggle were able to control magical beasts. Therefore, Chen Zhao naturally associated this situation with Taser Aggle. No, it has nothing to do with me. You really didn't do it? Chen Zhao was very doubtful. It really has nothing to do with me. Tace was a bit unhappy. If someone else doubted him like this, he would get angry. But he really couldn't beat Chen Zhao. So, he could only explain patiently. Chen Zhao flew into the air and was within his sensing range. It was filled with hundreds of crazy magical beasts. Outside his sensing range, there were even more crazy magical beasts. Chen Zhao landed on the ground. What happened 12 years ago? 12 years ago? You suspect that Ramont and I did what happened 12 years ago? No, it has nothing to do with us. When we heard about it, we even suspected that it was Morizer. So you don't know what exactly happened? We were hiding from Morizer and only contacted a few people in the Aggle family. We didn't get any information about the incident 12 years ago. Chen Zhao fell into deep thought. He'd thought that Morizer's death would be the end of this matter. But the reality was that this matter probably had nothing to do with Maurice Agler and his children. In other words, someone else had caused the magical beast rampage? Suddenly, the galaxy in the sky began to sway, as if a hand was fiddling with it. Energy balls kept falling from the sky. When they hit the ground, intense explosions occurred. Chapter 31:31. An energy ball landed near Chen Zhao. The moment the energy ball exploded, it created a huge impact. The entire world seemed like it was going to be destroyed. Crazy magical beasts. They weren't just beasts from the ether world. The ether world was huge, but it couldn't sustain such a huge number of beasts. There were also countless magical beasts burrowing out of the ground. Actually, this wasn't the ground either. Perhaps the ether world was just a rest stop for the beasts. But now, they were going to destroy the rest stop. The galaxy above the ether world was also out of control. The galaxy was formed by energy balls and sulfur clouds. Each of those energy balls was as powerful as a super bomb. Such a huge number kept falling. It was enough to destroy the entire ether world. Of course, the first to be destroyed would probably be the contestants here. It was a mess, a complete mess. Just then, Chen Zhao's communicator rang. Chen Zhao, something happened. Thank you. Your information is very timely. Chen Zhao listened to Zhang Tiany's voice in the communicator and agreed with the information. Kill all the beasts, Zhang Tiany said. So kill all the beasts that appear before you. Are you kidding? Why don't you do it yourself? Chen Zhao was rather annoyed by Zhang Tiany's orders. I can't do it. Even the 7 of us combined can't be as efficient as you. After all, you've destroyed a real world. This ether world is just a fake one. It shouldn't be difficult for you. Piss off, Chen Zhao cursed. How could it be the same? Back in the Serpent God's world, he could attack without restraint. But here, could he use his ultimate move directly? I want to know the specifics. Who did it? Or, are you the mastermind? You're thinking too much. Why do you think I did it? Do I have to ruin my own plan? Who knows? Maybe you have nothing better to do. Chen Zhao wasn't sure if Zhang Tiany was the mastermind, but he definitely knew the truth. I don't know the specifics either. I only know a little bit of information. Tell me, do you know St. Michael? I didn't before today. Where did you hear it from? The Egler family. Well, Zhang Tiany did not ask in detail and continued. St. Michael is the ancestor of the Egel family, dating back to the era of the spiritual energy tide 400 years ago. Before anyone else discovered the 100 Ku Islands, he had already taken the 100 Ku Islands as his own. Then, in a few decades, his strength and cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds. He was not interested in the spiritual world, only obsessed with pursuing higher realms. He was indifferent to the rise and fall of the younger generation of his family, so there was almost no legend of him in the spiritual world. There were only a few attacks, and this Tai-Yin world is his greatest masterpiece. Are you saying that this ether world was created by St. Michael? You can't say that he created it. He discovered this place, but there was no light here at the time. It was just a huge dark space until he arrived. He created the divine artifact, the glory of the stars, which is the countless energy balls you see above your head. Those countless energy balls were created by Sacred Michael. Chen Zhao was surprised. How'd he do it? That's his secret, Zhang Tianyi said with a bitter smile. Who knows? So the fall of the stars has something to do with the Eagle family. The glory of the stars was lost a long time ago, more than 100 years ago. I'm very sure that this has nothing to do with the Eagle family, at least not in this generation. The decline of the Eagle family also started with the loss of the glory of the stars. Then what's the meaning of your ambiguous attitude before? It was precisely because of Zhang Tianyi's ambiguous attitude that Chen Zhao suspected that Zhang Tianyi was the mastermind. Or perhaps it was related to the Eagle family. This is because the head of the Eagle family, Maurice Eagle, said that the culprit of the incident 12 years ago was the person who stole the glory of the stars. He wanted to use this reopening of the Taiyan world to attract that group of people and take back the glory of the stars. So, Maurice Eagle knows about this. Yes, but he's never been willing to say who the culprit is. Could it be a self-directed act? I had my suspicions at first, but then I thought about it. Do you think the Eagle family needs to do this? They started preparing more than 100 years ago and risked the continuous decline of the Eagle family. Even if it's not a self-directed act, it's at least related. Looks like I have to talk to Maurice again. I don't think that's necessary. Chen Zhao glanced at Monica and Taser Eagle beside him. Why? I just changed the head of the Eagle family to a new head. Sigma, Zhang Tianyi was in a bad mood. Tell me clearly. I killed Maurice Eagle. Zhang Tianyi had the urge to spit blood. After a moment of silence, Zhang Tianyi said, First, we have to eliminate the magical beasts here. But we have to block the source first, Chen Zhao said. Do you know where it's coming from? Air. Do you know or not? Is it hard? They're visitors from another world. What? They don't come from underground? It's a world called the Beast Realm. I've been there once. It's filled with magical beasts. I think that the mastermind's goal is to completely open the connection between our world and the Beast Realm and expose the spiritual world to all humans. After a moment of silence, Chen Zhao said, Is that why you're hesitating? This era is different from any previous spirit energy tides. In the past, the governments of various countries could easily cover up the spirit energy tides. However, this era is different. Any piece of information can be spread all over the world within a minute. Now, with the changes in the spirit energy tides, the spirit world will be completely exposed to all humans sooner or later. I think it's not a bad idea to take advantage of this opportunity. Instead of hiding it, it's better to be straightforward. Then you should know that if this incident goes out of control, it won't just be a matter of exposure, but an all-out war between the two worlds. This is only the beginning, and there are already so many demonic beasts pouring out from the other world. If this continues, once these demonic beasts reach the human cities, the humans will be completely defeated. Chapter 31-32. Chen Zhao's and Zhang Tianyi's ideals were clearly very different. Chen Zhao was very satisfied with his current life, environment, and even the state of the world. Chen Zhao didn't want to change. Change meant trouble. Chen Zhao hated trouble. He could already feel that there were more and more magical beasts. They were getting denser and denser. Chen Zhao glanced at Tess Agler and Monica. If he told them to go alone now, they would probably die. However, Chen Zhao wasn't going back now. Instead, he was going to advance to an even denser area. You Tess, right? Take care of your sister, Chen Zhao said. Chen Zhao looked at the groups of magical beasts. In an instant, more small black balls formed in the surroundings. Whoosh, 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 the black balls danced and shot forward. In just 1 second, hundreds of magical beasts were cleared out. The densely packed magical beasts just a moment ago were all gone in the blink of an eye. Tess Agler and Monica were dumbfounded by what they saw. Only now did they feel true terror, the kind of power that was above everything else. Even though Taser Agler had fought Chen Zhao before, Taser Agler was not a match for him. but the feeling was different. When fighting him, Chun Zhao only needed to use enough power to defeat him. But the current situation was different. No matter how much power Chun Zhao used, it wouldn't be too much. But Chun Zhao had just cleared out a few square kilometers of magical beasts. In the blink of an eye, it was covered by magical beasts again. The black balls around Chun Zhao shot out again. This time, the range was larger and more magical beasts were killed. At this moment, a contestant covered in cuts and bruises ran in their direction. Help! Help! Behind the contestant was a group of terrifying magical beasts. A group of god-level magical beasts. It was fortunate that the contestant was able to escape. If it were any other contestant, they would have died 100 times. A black ball shot toward the contestant. The contestant hugged his head in fear. But when the black ball was about to reach the contestant, it suddenly turned. The black ball flew in an arc. When it hit the first magical beast, its body suddenly shrank. All its flesh and blood were devoured and compressed by the black ball. The black ball didn't slow down at all. It went straight for the second magical beast, the third magical beast. After flying out of the visible range, the black ball turned again. This time, it flew in the widest arc possible. With Chun Zhao as the center, the black ball flew in a circle. Moreover, the speed of the little black ball was extremely fast. No matter what kind of magical beast it was, as long as it came into contact with the little black ball, its flesh and blood would be instantly compressed. It was unstoppable. This was like a superstorm. The storm wind wall was the most powerful, and both the inside and outside of the wind wall were safe zones. The contestant stared at Chun Zhao in terror. After a while, he said, Thank you. Go forward, Chun Zhao said. Go forward? Are you crazy? Do you know what's going on? There are even more magical beasts up ahead. Chun Zhao glanced at the contestant. You can leave. How do I leave now? I'll die alone. Tace glanced at the contestant and cursed under his breath. Idiot. Chun Zhao didn't care what the contestants were thinking. He turned around and walked deeper. Tess Agler and Monica hurried to catch up. The contestants hesitated for a while, but in the end, they could only follow. The deeper they went, the more terrifying the aura became. There seemed to be something even more terrifying up ahead. The contestants' jaws had already dropped from Chun Zhao's slaughter along the way. No matter what kind of terrifying magical beast it was, they couldn't stop Chun Zhao. They couldn't even stop him for a second. The magical beasts that stopped them were also getting stronger and stronger. Suddenly, a few figures appeared in front of them. Chun Zhao reached out and pulled. They were pulled in front of him. They were the people who'd helped Chun Zhao gather information. Mr. Chun, it's you? Everyone was surprised and happy. They didn't expect to see Chun Zhao again. And he'd save them. Did you come to save me? Chun Zhao glanced at the familiar people before him. It was good to smile now. Fine. Everyone smiled bitterly. Follow me. Facing such a huge number of magical beasts and the people around him who needed protection, even Chun Zhao couldn't go too fast. A dark red neutron star formed in Chun Zhao's hand. Whoosh! The dark red neutron star was too powerful. Even Chun Zhao had to throw it far away. Otherwise, the people he was protecting would be the first casualties. Plus, he couldn't just throw them around, because no one knew where the contestants were hiding. Chun Zhao had to throw it within his sensing range. The dark red neutron star's killing range also had to be within his sensing range. A red circle of light exploded in the distance. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This power was too terrifying. Once it was released, it would probably destroy an entire island. The magical beast didn't appear in front of everyone for a long time. When everyone arrived at the site of the explosion of the dark red neutron star, all he saw was a terrifying crater. Here, Chun Zhao threw out another dark red neutron star. The red circle of light exploded again in the distance. Everyone felt a chill run down their spine. Just then, the energy balls in the sky rained down on Chun Zhao. Are you going to stop me now? As soon as the energy balls touched the periphery of Chun Zhao's small world, they were crushed. The energy balls were powerful, but they were meaningless if they couldn't hit Chen Zhao. However, he still had to hurry to the passageway leading to this world from the other world as soon as possible. Otherwise, no one knew what would happen. Chen Zhao looked back at everyone. I have to hurry. If you don't want to die, cast a shield spell first. They didn't understand why he had to cast a shield spell to hurry. Shouldn't he cast a speed spell to hurry? Only Monica, who'd accepted Chen Zhao's plane ticket, knew what he meant. Nevertheless, they still listened to Chen Zhao's suggestion and cast a defensive spell. Bang! Suddenly, they felt immense pressure. It was like their faces had smashed into an invisible wall of air. Everyone's expression twisted and flattened. No one could maintain their elegance at a time like this. A few seconds later, Chen Zhao stopped. It had only been a few seconds, but everyone felt as if a century had passed. They realized that they didn't know where they were anymore. Looking down, they saw countless powerful magical beasts below them. Each magical beast possessed a suffocating deterrent force. Everyone clutched their chests. It was so uncomfortable that they wanted to faint right now. In the center of the magical beasts, a door of light stood. Before anyone could stop him, Chen Zhao had already dragged them to the ground. They landed in the middle of the magical beasts. Chapter 31-33. The truly terrifying thing was on the other side of the door. On the other side of the light gate, there were several extremely terrifying auras rushing over. They sensed Chen Zhao's appearance. The owner of each aura was as powerful as the Dragon King, or even more powerful than him. A beam of purple light shot out from the door. The purple light contained destructive power. When everyone saw the purple light, they could only feel a sense of awe. Chen Zhao reached out to block the purple light. He saw that his palm was falling apart. Chen Zhao frowned. His non-elemental body couldn't resist this power either. The small world could only wear away some of the purple light's destructive power. Chen Zhao immediately absorbed the purple light into his inner world and healed his damaged palm. But the purple light didn't stop. It still shot out from the other side. The purple light bombarded Chen Zhao's palm. The sparks that burst out produced a terrifying corrosive effect. The purple light grew stronger and stronger. It wasn't just the attacker increasing its power. It was also because the attacker was coming out. A strange dragon covered in bone spikes crawled out of the door. When its claws touched the ground, it felt like it was going to die. The surrounding ground was first burned by a layer of flames. Then, a layer of purple light swept past. The ground was corroded until it was full of holes. At the same time, its aura was filled with despair and terror. It was a huge source of terror, but it wasn't the first. After the door, a second one crawled out. The second magical beast was humanoid. It was covered in scales, and its limbs were extremely thick. Its fists were burning with flames. It was equally terrifying, covered in coldness, and had the same despairing aura. Everyone looked at Chen Zhao. Could Chen Zhao really deal with such a terrifying existence? Chen Zhao didn't hold back. Primordial Regression Technique, Level 5. Roar, roar. The two terrifying magical beasts let out deafening roars at the same time. They also seemed to be facing a great enemy. Their bodies emitted an all-out pressure. Everyone's level was too different. They couldn't tell who was stronger. To them, 101,000 were no different. But they saw Chen Zhao's even more terrifying expression. Chen Zhao licked his lips. I'm going to tear you apart. The two magical beasts charged at Chen Zhao at the same time. They could feel an even stronger, murderous aura from Chen Zhao. Bang! Chen Zhao disappeared. The next moment, the strange dragon's abdomen was hit by something. Its huge body soared into the sky. Roar! The humanoid magical beast roared and punched at Chen Zhao with a flaming fist. Bang! With another loud bang, the humanoid demonic beast's giant fist shattered. In the next moment, the humanoid demonic beast also lost control and soared into the sky. Everyone's jaws dropped as they stared at the scene in front of them in a daze. They couldn't even see Chen Zhao. They could only vaguely see the tracks he left behind. His lightning-like speed and peerless strength transformed into a power that could destroy heaven and earth. The two magical beasts in mid-air once again suffered a heavy blow. The two magical beasts collided. Crackling sounds came from the bodies of the two magical beasts. They were completely reduced to sandbags. He couldn't land either. Chun Zhao whipped him in the air. It lasted for a minute. Chun Zhao finally appeared and looked at the two falling magical beasts. Fist shadow. In another instant, Chun Zhao punched out countless afterimages. It felt like he was slapping rotten meat. The two magical beasts were deformed by Chun Zhao. If they were normal creatures, they would have died from this degree of distortion. But the two magical beasts' vitality was unbelievably tenacious. Chun Zhao punched one last time. The two magical beasts rose into the air again. Everyone's pupils constricted. They saw a dark red neutron star brewing in Chun Zhao's palm again. When the dark red neutron star flew to the middle of the two magical beasts, their bodies were absorbed by the dark red neutron star's mass. Their flesh and blood rapidly disintegrated. But the process wasn't complete. The dark red neutron star shot out a red and white light. All the magical beasts in the surroundings disappeared in an instant. At the same time, the two terrifying strange dragons and humanoid magical beasts also disappeared. Their flesh and blood had all evaporated. Everyone was speechless. In their eyes, the two magical beasts were already at the peak. Before Chun Zhao, they couldn't even fight back. Chun Zhao looked at the door of light and suddenly did something strange. It was like a tug of war. Everyone looked at Chun Zhao in confusion. The next moment, another magical beast came out of the door. However, that magical beast seemed to be very unwilling as it desperately tried to drill into the light door. Unfortunately, it couldn't do it. Everyone stared at Chun Zhao in disbelief. Chun Zhao had pulled it out. He destroyed two such terrifying magical beasts. But it still couldn't satisfy him. This magical beast was also powerful. But now, no one felt that it was terrifying. Instead, they felt pity, that's right. As the weakest here, they actually felt pity for the magical beasts. They actually sympathized with the magical beasts. As soon as the magical beast came out, the dark lava covered it. Everyone could see the magical beast struggling madly in the dark lava. Chun Zhao didn't seem to be prepared to attack. He just let the magical beast struggle in the dark lava. Chun Zhao was still pulling on it. Another magical beast was pulled out. Chun Zhao wasn't interested in this magical beast, so he used another combo to take it away. Just then, the magical beast covered in dark lava finally stopped struggling. The dark lava seeped into its body, crazily devouring and robbing its power. When the dark magma retreated, only a skinny body was left. It was still huge, but everyone could tell that it wasn't far from death. Chun Zhao continued pulling. The fifth magical beast was pulled out. The contestants who'd been saved before already knew that Chun Zhao was strong, very strong. But their understanding of Chun Zhao was limited to very strong. As for how strong exactly, it was just a vague concept. No one could say for sure. But now, everyone only felt that Chun Zhao's strength wasn't a vague concept. It was a clear, terrifyingly strong one. After the fifth magical beast was pulled out, the door immediately started shrinking. Chun Zhao didn't care about the fifth magical beast he'd pulled out. Instead, he rushed to the door and reached out to pull the edge. Everyone was speechless again. It was clearly a spatial door, but Chun Zhao actually used his hands to stop the door from shrinking. Was there something wrong with his brain, or did he really think it was possible? The result was really unexpected. The space door really stopped shrinking. Large numbers of low-level magical beasts surged out of the door again. Of course, this low level referred to magical beasts below the divine level. The magical beasts on the other side of the door seemed to think that this could distract Chun Zhao. This would give them a chance to close the door. But Chun Zhao would give them a chance. Thousands of small black balls formed. Then they started spinning like a storm. For the low-level magical beasts, this was like a meat grinder continuously mincing them. No matter how many magical beasts surged out, they were just more seasoning for Chun Zhao's neutron star storm. Chapter 31-34. Chen Zhao opened the spatial door to its fullest. In the eyes of others, it would be too late to close the door. But Chen Zhao did the exact opposite. Not only did he not close the door, he even opened it wider. He pushed the portal to its maximum, which was 200 meters in diameter. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. There were countless magical beast leaves on the other side of the door. They were all lined up neatly too. Just like an army, different magical beasts were in different formations. There were also a few huge beasts with terrifying auras. They were like generals on the battlefield. Everyone's gaze fell on Chen Zhao again. Instantly, everyone felt like their scalps were going to explode. Right now, a basketball-sized dark red neutron star was brewing in Chen Zhao's palms. Previously, Chen Zhao had only thrown out a dark red neutron star the size of a thumb. Even so, a single one could leave a 1,000-meter crater and have an effective killing range of at least 100 square kilometers. Now, how powerful was this basketball-sized dark red neutron star? No one dared to imagine. They only felt that Chen Zhao was too dangerous. Then they saw Chen Zhao push the dark red neutron star to the other side of the spatial door. Everyone saw a shocking scene. After the dark red neutron star flew past the light door, the magical beast generals went up to stop its trajectory. However, even those terrifying demonic beasts were compressed by the dark red neutron star when they came into contact with it. The dark red neutron star's mass already determined that even if it didn't explode, its single target damage was almost limitless. Then the dark red neutron star landed in the center of the magical beast army. Everyone was in disbelief. After the dark red neutron star landed, it didn't explode directly. Instead, it produced a terrifying suction force. Tens of thousands of magical beasts were pulled into meat strips by the dark red neutron star. If it were a normal neutron star, the neutron star's strong gravity would constantly attract other celestial bodies and matter. However, with the pulsed ray burst, it would also release matter and energy at an even faster rate. Therefore, the time that neutron stars existed was much shorter than other celestial bodies. The dark red neutron star Chen Zhao had created followed the same pattern. Although the mass of the dark red neutron star had reached a very ridiculous level, the matter was still 1,000,000,000,000 times worse than a real celestial body, so the time it could exist was even shorter. Just like the end of a neutron star's life, when a neutron star could no longer compress matter with its powerful gravity, matter and energy would be released in a terrifying manner. It lasted for about a few seconds. Then, time seemed to freeze in that instant. A red halo burst forth. Everything in its path, be it the mountains, the rivers, the magical beasts, or even the air, was annihilated. It was Chen Zhao's first time fighting since he became an ascendance level. It was different from the world of the feathered serpent god. At that time, Chen Zhao had yet to reach the ascendance level. Even when he was in Asgard, he hadn't truly gone all out. In Asgard, Chen Zhao faced a declining Asgard, a group of gods who had lost their physical bodies and relied on Asgard to survive. But it was different now. It was a truly complete world, and it was incomparably powerful. And from all the signs, this riot was definitely not a one-sided affair. Someone on this side was colluding with the other world. Otherwise, how could such a large magical beast army have gathered there so coincidentally? Moreover, the spatial door had opened right in front of the magical beast army. No matter how many magical beasts there were in that world, it was impossible for millions of them to gather in one area. This was a problem of the ecosystem. A forest food couldn't support so many people with big stomachs. So, Chen Zhao didn't have much to worry about when he attacked. When the crowd witnessed the annihilation of the magical beast army of several million, they couldn't use words to express their shock. "Are you staying here or coming with me? Or do you want to come with me?" Chen Zhao turned to look at the others. "Going over? For what?" Even Tess Agel didn't understand now. "I don't like to keep enemies alive," Chen Zhao said calmly. "Those magical beasts, didn't you destroy them all? Do you think I'm the only ones in the other world?" Chen Zhao asked. "Are you going to destroy all the magical beasts in the other world? It's hard to destroy all of them, But maybe I can destroy that world, Chun Zhao said calmly. All the signs showed that the magical beasts in that world were extremely intelligent. After all, they already knew how to play tricks. Leaving them alive would only be a disaster. Chun Zhao was here this time, so he stopped them. But what if they opened a spatial door in a no-man's land again? Then hundreds of thousands, millions, or even tens of millions of magical beasts would flood into Earth. It wouldn't wipe out all of humanity, but it would bring Chun Zhao a lot of trouble. If they hid in their own world obediently, Chun Zhao wouldn't do anything. But since they'd reached their hands out, Chun Zhao wasn't going to let it go. Plus, he could feel the world's intent. Back then, Chun Zhao had been rewarded by the world's intent for destroying Quetzalcoatl's world. This time, Chun Zhao was the same. He hadn't planned on letting it go. Now that he had the world's intense approval, Chun Zhao wanted to settle this once and for all. Everyone looked at each other. There were still many magical beasts in the ether world. It was too dangerous to stay here, but it seemed even more dangerous to go there. Plus, Chun Zhao had just said that he could destroy the world. Everyone gulped. They stared at Chun Zhao in shock. He couldn't be serious, right? If they could actually witness a world-destroying action with their own eyes, it seemed to be a very good experience. I'll go with you, Tess Aggle said. I don't want to face those magical beasts alone. He still hadn't recovered from his battle with Morither Aggle. In fact, it had only been 2 hours since his battle with Morither Aggle. He wasn't a true Shanxing realm cultivator, so his recovery speed was far slower. As for Monica, she'd obtained Sacred Michael's power, but she hadn't completely merged with it. She was also very unfamiliar with this power, so she didn't have much combat power. The other contestants were strong, but they were also helpless against the tidal wave of magical beasts. So, everyone decided to follow Chun Zhao to the spatial door. After all, they couldn't decide Chun Zhao's actions, so they could only decide their own actions. Chapter 31-35. They followed Chun Zhao to the other side of the portal. It was a vast plain. There was a terrifying crater in the distance. It was the center of the explosion left by Chun Zhao's dark red neutron star. The dark red neutron star had a destructive radius of hundreds of kilometers. Almost all living things within this radius were annihilated, but they could still see traces of magical beasts in the distance. Even under that kind of terrifying lethality, there was no way he would be able to escape. There were still magical beasts that didn't die. Chun Zhao didn't care about the struggling magical beasts. He raised his arms, and the ground started shaking. Immediately, everyone realized that the ground was cracking. No, it wasn't cracking. The ground they were standing on was rising into the air. The ground within a dozen kilometers was rising. At this moment, everyone was standing on this huge rock that was raised high. They vaguely realized what Chun Zhao wanted to do. What would happen if a rock with a diameter of more than 10 kilometers smashed into the ground from the sky? If he wanted to completely destroy the world, he would need to make the meteorite go over 200,000 kilometers per hour, which was around 60 kilometers per second. It was very difficult to make such a huge object reach that speed. But if he wanted to completely annihilate all life on the surface, he only needed to reach 10,000 kilometers per hour. As long as he could pull the rock high enough, the acceleration of gravity would be enough to achieve this. Plus, Chun Zhao had to completely destroy the world. He wanted to be like the world of Serpent God. He wanted to take the world's consciousness for himself. When the rock reached a height where they could see the entire world clearly, it finally stopped. Everyone didn't feel it was difficult to breathe. Chun Zhao had long used his small world to reserve air. This was the air he'd reserved before they entered this world. If Chun Zhao came in alone, he wouldn't need to prepare this at all. But there were also these little guys. So, Chun Zhao had to make some preparations. Chun Zhao felt that it was about the right height. He pushed the rock heavily. The huge rock crashed down with a whoosh. A few seconds later, it turned into a huge fireball. At the same time, a huge tail of smoke swept across the sky. At the end of the horizon, a sun rose. Even from 10,000 kilometers away, everyone could still see the dazzling light. Okay, we should go back. Chun Zhao wasn't unfamiliar with this scene. After all, it was a disaster that he'd personally created. Chun Zhao brought everyone back to the ether world who still hadn't had enough. No one had expected it to be so fast. Originally, they thought that this would be a time-consuming task, but Chun Zhao only used 10 minutes. When Chun Zhao returned to the Taiyan world, he immediately closed the spatial door. At this moment, Zhang Tianyi descended from the sky. Chun Zhao, you closed the portal? Yes. Chun Zhao nodded. Zhang Tianyi felt a headache coming on. Did you go there? No, I'm tired. I'll leave these people to you. Chun Zhao, you must have been there. You can't let go of that world. Give me the coordinates. You can't keep it to yourself. At the moment, Zhang Tianyi's level had reached its peak. He was only one step away from Ascendance level. However, he did not have the chance to devour the wills of other worlds. He did not receive any reward from the world will. In this incident, Zhang Tianyi had made it sound so righteous. How could he not want to take the opportunity to break through to Ascendance level? However, he couldn't do what Chun Zhao did. In the end, they still needed to borrow Chun Zhao's power. Chun Zhao glanced at Zhang Tianyi and stopped talking. Everyone was confused. Keep it to himself? They couldn't understand Zhang Tianyi's intentions at all. Clearly, Chun Zhao and Zhang Tianyi's topic was too complicated. It was completely beyond their understanding. Chun Zhao definitely didn't just destroy the world. But Chun Zhao didn't seem to have done anything else in those 10 minutes, right? Seeing that Chun Zhao was silent, Zhang Tianyi could only ask the others, did he go there just now? The others were embarrassed. They didn't want to offend Zhang Tianyi. But the problem was they didn't dare to offend Chun Zhao either. If Zhang Tianyi asked them privately, they would definitely tell him everything they knew. But now, they were asking in front of Chun Zhao. They wouldn't dare to say anything. Chun Zhao had just destroyed a world. They were very sure that they couldn't take a beating from that world. They were also certain that if Chun Zhao was determined to kill them, no one in their organization or family would be able to protect them. Zhang Tianyi obviously knew their situation. What he wanted wasn't their answer. He didn't need them to answer either. If Chun Zhao really didn't go there, they could tell him directly. Since they were hesitant, it meant that Chun Zhao had gone. Plus, Zhang Tianyi knew that Chun Zhao definitely wouldn't let go of such a big piece of meat. Chun Zhao, it's not a good habit to take everything for yourself. Chun Zhao looked at Zhang Tianyi. I don't like being used. This time, I was wrong. What else? What conditions? Tell me. You work for me for free for the Olympians. I'll take your share. Don't even think about it. Goodbye. Wait. Don't go. Zhang Tianyi looked bitter. You can't do this. You're too greedy. I'll give you half of my share. No, all of it. Half. Only half at most. Go find another world. Oh, remember to cripple that world's consciousness first. Zhang Tianyi looked at Chun Zhao with tears in his eyes. If he could cripple it, he wouldn't need to use Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao's strongest combat power wasn't a joke. Not to mention that Chun Zhao had already reached Ascension. Even when they were at the same level, Chun Zhao was dozens of times stronger than him in terms of combat power. Chun Zhao could use that Doomsday Strike, but Zhang Tianyi didn't have that ability. He thought that he could use Chun Zhao to save a lot of money. But when he rushed over, Chun Zhao had already taken care of it. Do you believe that I won't join your operation? If you don't want to, then don't. Will I definitely fail without you? Zhang Tianyi's expression became even worse. I was just saying. Let's both take a step back, Zhang Tianyi said, gritting his teeth. I'll give you 70%. Don't push your luck. Chun Zhao shook his head. I said that I want all of it. You're too much. Am I being too much, or are you? I even suspect that you're the one who opened the door to this world. You're slandering me. Anyway, it doesn't affect me whether you accept or reject the deal. If you don't accept it, I can't bear to take it out. I can keep it for myself. Chapter 31-36. Chun Zhao and Zhang Tianyi were both greedy. Zhang Tianyi didn't want Chun Zhao to ask for such an exorbitant price. Chun Zhao would rather leave this new world occupied by magical beasts there. The world will of the serpent god's world was enough for him to devour for a few hundred years. There was no need for him to get a second one. It wasn't that he didn't need it. It was just that the cycle was too long. It was basically useless in the short term. But he had given it to Zhang Tianyi just like that. Chen Zhao knew that he wasn't that generous. What's more, Zhang Tianyi used him this time. Thinking of this, Chen Zhao was furious. Zhang Tianyi was allowed to make use of him. Wouldn't he be able to blackmail him? Chen Zhao didn't believe that Zhang Tianyi and his Dragon Tiger Mountain Celestial Masters sect couldn't find another suitable world. But that also depended on whether it was suitable or not. There was also the issue of combat power. It wanted to devour the world wills of other worlds. First, he had to cripple them. But would the world will be so easily destroyed? Even Chen Zhao had to use his ultimate move. As for the others, there was no need to mention the lethality of a meteor. Even the dark red neutron star couldn't do it. In their team, apart from Chen Zhao, Bifla was the most lethal. But even Bifla couldn't create this level of damage. No matter what Zhang Tianyi said, Chen Zhao wouldn't agree. If you don't want it, I'll go to Vera. Although he doesn't need it now, he will definitely need it in the future. I don't have to worry about not being able to sell it. Wait, motherfucker. Zhang Tianyi cursed with a black face. In the end, he still accepted Chen Zhao's black-hearted price. Clean up this place, Zhang Tianyi said unhappily. Chen Zhao glanced at the galaxy in the sky. At this moment, Xing had already stopped his bombardment. It was as if nothing had happened, full of tranquility and beauty. You said that you haven't found the artifact that can control the galaxy in the sky. We haven't found the person, so of course we haven't found the item either. That thing's pretty powerful, Chen Zhao said meaningfully. If he could completely control that divine artifact, perhaps its destructive power would not be inferior to his dark red neutron star. Unfortunately, there's a flaw. What flaws? I can only unleash its full power here. That's useless. Chen Zhao immediately lost interest. If he could use it freely, it would be like obtaining an additional skill. However, it could only be used here, so the value of this divine artifact would be greatly reduced. Chen Zhao glanced at Zhang Tianyi. Was your original goal to steal the divine artifact from the mastermind and conquer the world of Warcraft? Zhang Tianyi stopped talking. Chen Zhao vaguely remembered that Zhang Tianyi had asked him to be a backup a few times. Did you guess that there was something wrong with that divine artifact, but you weren't very sure? Zhang Tianyi still said nothing. Chen Zhao was even more dissatisfied. Fuck, Chen Zhao cursed. Chen Zhao almost wanted to kill Zhang Tianyi. In the end, the second match was forced to stop due to an accident in the Taito world. Those who weren't eliminated and didn't die before the end all advanced to the next round. This was supposed to be a good thing, but this incident resulted in more than 200 casualties. More than 300 people were seriously injured. This was already an extremely serious matter. However, the competition continued and did not stop because of this incident. There were also those who had been manually eliminated by the judges. The number of people who advanced was around 400. Although it was still a distance from the expected 256 spots. Chen Zhao could not care so much right now. The third match was an elimination match, but it wasn't a one-on-one match. Instead, it was a four-person battle royale. This time, 100 people would be chosen directly from the 400 participants. A 25% chance of elimination. That's pretty much the situation this time. What do you think? Chen Zhao looked at Alunari and Manet. Both of them were deep in thought. To be honest, even though these words came from Chen Zhao, they still found it unbelievable. Destroying the world. Was there really someone who could do this all by himself? But suspicion was just suspicion. With their intelligence, it wasn't hard for them to tell the truth. Chen Zhao didn't have to lie to them. They just felt that it was a pity that they couldn't see the apocalypse with their own eyes. Even spiritualists probably hadn't seen the apocalypse. Alunari was the first to speak. President, the question now is whether or not Zhang Tianyi is the mastermind behind this incident, right? Sort of. Chen Zhao nodded. I feel that the old man is really evil. Maybe he did it. I think Zhang Tianyi might know something, or at least part of it, Alunari said. He might also be using you, but I don't agree that he's the mastermind. From your conversation with Zhang Tianyi, you can see that Zhang Tianyi also has many information blind spots. For example, he doesn't understand the divine artifact, so he needs you to help him. Because the information isn't complete, Zhang Tianyi is worried that things will go out of control. If all the information is transparent and controllable, Zhang Tianyi won't need you to help him. He can analyze the feasibility or success rate himself. Then why can't he be an accomplice? President, first of all, Zhang Tianyi is a human. There's no doubt about that. What good does betraying humans do for him? But you can't say that he's completely impossible. No, every action needs a motive. This is logic. A madman must have the crazy logic of a madman to kill someone. Zhang Tianyi is not a madman, and even if he is a madman, he doesn't need to destroy human society to prove his madness. Then how do you explain how he knows so much? Maybe the mastermind told him. The mastermind told him? Why? To make things more difficult for himself? Maybe it's to get Zhang Tianyi to join them, Manet said. Manet said, that's very possible. Zhang Tianyi's idea is to publicize the supernatural world. The mastermind might be using this to cooperate with Celestial Master Zhang. And the mastermind doesn't know that Zhang Tianyi actually has his own plans. On one hand, he wants to use the mastermind to expose the spiritual world, but on the other hand, he has his own plans. He wants to steal the divine artifact from the mastermind and that world. He's using the president as a backup. That old guy is really bad. Chen Zhao twitched his lips. In terms of scheming, he really couldn't beat Zhang Tianyi. If not for a Lunarai and Manet, Chen Zhao really wouldn't have thought so deeply. Whatever. No matter what, this is over. Chen Zhao shrugged. I don't know when the Eidolon world will be open again. That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.